So my journey started in 1995, so a long time ago. But I was a artilleryman in the army, so a 13 Bravo blowing stuff up down in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I realized after about probably about 3.5 years of that there was no future in that unless I wanted to really be an artilleryman for the rest of my career. So I took the opportunity to go and reclass to be a counterterrorism and intelligence specialist. So I went into the intel world, which at first the army tells you, yeah, you're not quite smart enough to do anything. So here's go be a tanker or go be an artilleryman or go be whatever else. And they're all full of BS. You're always smarter than what the recruiters tell you are at the MEPS. But I went to the intelligence field. That's where I spent the rest of my career. I was working in counterterrorism and intelligence, and counterterrorism specifically. I deployed to Iraq in '03 with the ground war, '06, '07 in Afghanistan, and then I retired as a sergeant first class. The disability retired after 14 years. That was, gosh, 2010. So I've been out for a while, but I don't feel like I've been out for a while. I feel like it was like just like a year ago that I left, and it's because I keep doing things that have me around veterans and active duty service members all the time, and most of that is probably, and I think that you guys will probably agree with this. It's just there's like familiarity that doesn't exist other places, and I. With my travels in the military and my experience in the military, and I'm sure we'll end up talking about this, it is something else to be able to connect with other veterans, because even though you don't share anything in common for any other reason, that one thing is like enough to make you feel a little bit more comfortable because at least somebody else knows a little bit about what you've gone through. So anyway, but that's my story. That's my military story anyway. And now I'm here working with veterans and active duty service members, and doing what we can to keep as many of them here with us as we can.
Guys, I hope you're ready. I brought you three great veterans in here to talk about Stackup, to talk about mental health issues, to talk about what we can do to help veterans worldwide. And I'm really very pleased to have you guys in here. So could you guys basically introduce yourself, who you are at veterans, where did you serve? Maybe Didi, if you could start here. What's your story as a veteran, as a soldier?
Sure. Well, so my journey started in 1995, so a long time ago. But I was a artilleryman in the army, so a 13 Bravo blowing stuff up down in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. I realized after probably about 3.5 years of that there was no future in that unless I wanted to really be an artilleryman for the rest of my career. So I took the opportunity to go and reclass to be a counterterrorism and intelligence specialist. So I went into the intel world, which at first the army tells you, yeah, you're not quite smart enough to do anything. So here's go be a tanker or go be an artilleryman or go be whatever else. And they're all full of BS. You're always smarter than what the recruiters tell you are at the MEPS. But I went to the intelligence field. That's where I spent the rest of my career. I was working in counterterrorism and intelligence, and counterterrorism specifically. I deployed to Iraq in '03 with the ground war, '06, '07 in Afghanistan, and then I retired as a sergeant first class. The disability retired after 14 years. That was, gosh, 2010. So I've been out for a while, but I don't feel like I've been out for a while. I feel like it was like just like a year ago that I left, and it's because I keep doing things that have me around veterans and active duty service members all the time, and most of that is probably, and I think that you guys will probably agree with this. It's just there's like familiarity that doesn't exist other places, and I. With my travels in the military and my experience in the military, and I'm sure we'll end up talking about this, it is something else to be able to connect with other veterans, because even though you don't share anything in common for any other reason, that one thing is like enough to make you feel a little bit more comfortable because at least somebody else knows a little bit about what you've gone through. So anyway, but that's my story. That's my military story anyway. And now I'm here working with veterans and active duty service members, and doing what we can to keep as many of them here with us as we can.
That's amazing. We will definitely talk about that later. What about you, Gally? Where did you serve?
Yeah, I was in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard. I actually got in when Deity got out in 2010 after I
Hmm.
graduated high school. I went to basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky. Then I went to my AIT, which is like your job training in Fort Lee, Virginia. And then I went
Hmm.
back to my unit in Pennsylvania and I started drilling. What these guys will tell you too. I was basically a part of a reserve component of the Army. There's two reserve components. There's the Army Reserve and the Army National Guard. I was a part of
Hmm.
the Army National Guard, which is state and federally funded. So basically, we work for the state of Pennsylvania, but we also work for the federal government too. So we also deploy, but we also do things like when there's a natural disaster in our state, we can get called for state active duty and actually go. It could be like a storm or anything like a natural disaster, and we will get called in to help out with that as well. So I was in the Pennsylvania Army National Guard. I was a 92 Yankee, so I was a supply specialist and unit armor. I got attached to a Cav Scout unit in Fort Indiantown Gap is where I drilled at.
I'm
And then,
sorry, Gally. I wasn't laughing about you.
oh, I know. Sorry, clear my throat. And then let's see. Yes, that was 2010. And then in 2012 to 2013, I was deployed to Kuwait for about 8 months. So I was over in Kuwait with my unit. And yeah, so I was a unit armor. I was in charge of like all the weapons and sensitive property. That's what I did for my unit. And yeah, I did that for 6 years and got out in 2016.
That's amazing. I can't wait to talk about all your experiences. Like, I think you guys were all overseas, right? Nathan, I don't, you too, right? So we definitely will dig into that as well. So Nathan, maybe just give us a quick heads up. Who are you? Where did you serve?
So I've
What
been in
brings you here?
since. So I've been in the Army Reserve since 2004. Two
Mhm.
deployments. I spent a year in Afghanistan, and I more recently spent a year in Kuwait. For my entire career, I've been a 25 Bravo, which is IT specialist. But since about 2008, I started working in what the Army now calls cyber. So I've been working in the more security side of the field. So I
Mhm.
mean, that's kind of the whole story. Like two deployments, I've been doing the same job the whole time. And as a reservist, kind of what Gally was saying, like I come back home. I have a civilian job. I work the weekends, and we get sent out when something comes up. Unlike the guard for the reserve, we very rarely would do stateside stuff. So like not natural disasters, or whatever. It's primarily overseas, but.
Yeah, interesting. I I mean, when we are already there, like overseas, like I actually wanted to jump in that later, but I think it's now a good time because you brought it up. Like, um, is there something like you could say you learned from your experience, like serving overseas? I'm super interested if there's some kind of story that pops up to you. Like, just whoever has something, like go first.
Oh, okay, I'll go. So yeah, I was in Kuwait in 2013, and it wasn't, let's just say, a combat deployment. So yeah, I mean, not a whole lot happened. It was kind of just on a base the whole time. But I definitely learned like not to take things for granted, like back at home. Because we didn't. I mean, we had like hard barracks and stuff, which that means like we had like a open bay area to sleep. We weren't like sleeping in tents or anything. So it was like, hard building. It was a building that we lived in. Um, but yeah, just being around family and friends all the time, and you have that camaraderie with your unit, the soldiers that are with you. But it sometimes it's not the same, and it can actually get kind of lonely because they might know you on a personal level, but like some soldiers don't get as personal as others, or sometimes you don't want to share stuff with some soldiers that you would others. So like it did get kind of like lonely because you miss your family, you miss your loved ones. So it definitely taught me like a lot of gratitude, just for like simple things at home as well that we have here in the states. And yeah, it taught me how to save money too because I did a lot of that while I was over there. But yeah, that's one of the things for me.
Did you share? Sorry, Gally, but I have a question for you. Like, did you share? Like, because you said like you share something with some people and some don't. But did you ever talk really about like mental health stuff, or is that more like a taboo? Was it more like a taboo for you over there?
I mean, I guess because we did have we had a bunch of artillery. We had a unit from an artillery. It was an artillery unit. They were attached to us for the deployment. We needed like more numbers than we usually had in our unit. So those soldiers got attached to us, and some of them were actually went on actual combat deployments and stuff. So I actually did have one of the guys that was in my platoon. I had like deep conversations about his time in Iraq and Afghanistan, what he went through, and just basically there listening to what happened, his story, what he went through for that deployment. So I would say like it wasn't taboo, but like I said, it wasn't a combat deployment for us, so it was more or less like we were just waiting to get out of there, I guess.
Yeah,
And a
that's
lot
also
of
a
us
different
too had never
situation.
been on a lot of us had never been on a deployment, so it was just new for us, but it was definitely like different,
Yeah, understand. What about you, Nathan? Did you overseas? What is
So
the story? I think we started with like, is there some story? The pops where you learn something from, or
yeah, so I mean, I guess a lot of people say it, and it almost is cliche, but adaptation was huge on my last deployment. The unit. Let me back that up slightly. So most units, when you deploy as a unit of people that you've been working together, drilling together for quite a while, in some cases years. On this last deployment I just went on, the the unit was almost entirely comprised of people from around the country that had never met before. So we went from we all met in a room one day, and we're all looking around, and everyone has a different patch on, and it was like, wait a second, this is us, this is the unit. Who knows somebody else in this room? And almost no one did. Out of like 50 some odd people, only 5 people had ever met before. And we had to figure out in the usual deploy timeline of we had 2 weeks at Fort Dix, we had a couple weeks at Fort Hood to figure out how to work together, how to learn each other, how to like just figure each other out. And you very quickly had to continuously adapt to everyone's different styles, leadership styles, and everything. And it was way different than I think anything I'd ever experienced before, because you're so used to always having the same people.
that's interesting. It reminds me, like, I mean, if you look at companies today, and it feels like, if people really have to work together and make something work, it is possible also in a short amount of time.
Mhm.
Maybe we sometimes make stuff too complicated.
Yeah, and that's how it kind of was from our deployment. Like I said, we had a different unit attached to us, so we had guys that we hadn't drilled with,
Mhm.
and we never met. They were from a totally different. I mean, they were from Pennsylvania, but they were from a totally different area. Area. Never met the guys. They were all on an artillery unit. And it was the same thing. Um, we went down to Mississippi, Fort Shelby. That's where we moved out of. Um, and yeah, we had to learn like everybody's, like Nathan said, leadership styles, how they are as a person. A lot of the guys I knew, but yeah, these guys that came in that went with us, they were new. So it was different.
Very interesting. I try to remember that story actually right now, Didi, when I had you first time on my podcast, and I think I asked you a similar question. And I can't remember now if I'm switching your story around with somebody else. What is something you learned during your overseas deployment?
I've been thinking about this while you guys are talking, because like there's so many different things that I walked away from both deployments with, as well as just my general service. One thing that I have in common with both of you guys though is when I went to Iraq, it was actually Kuwait first, because I didn't know we were going to war. This is
Hmm.
2000, this January 2003. I was working. I was in Hawaii and I was focused on Southeast Asia, so I was working. Finding bad guys and terrorists, post 9/11 stuff in Indonesia and the Philippines and Malaysia, and I was working with those some special operators and some other folks, and my number came up to go to the Philippines, to go to Zamboanga to be a part of that team down there in Zamboanga, Philippines, and I got real sick, and so I couldn't go. So someone had to take my spot, And so the next spot that came up was this, it's called a WIAS, Worldwide Individual Augmentee System. And they needed one person to go to Kuwait. Actually, the point was supposed to go to Doha, Qatar. It was supposed to actually be in Qatar. So anyway, December, I get my orders and I'm going and I leave. I'm so focused on Southeast Asia that I'm not focused on the rest of the world politics and what's going on. So I didn't know that we were really planning on going to war with Iraq. And I didn't think that that was going to happen again. So I'm like, okay, cool. I'll go to Kuwait or I'll go to Doha, whatever. And so I got there and I'm by myself with thousands, tens of thousands of people on Camp Doha, which is only meant to have about 2,000 people or 3,000 people. And there was tens. And then there was all these units that were out there at Camp New Jersey, Camp New York, all these different, desert bases, tent bases with all these military artillery units and tank battalions and all this stuff. And I'm like, what is going on here? And then, again, I don't know anybody out there. I'm forced, into a small team, and I literally didn't know we were gonna go to war until a General Marks, 2-star general, pulls all the intel people into a hangar, and he's like, "We're going to war, folks." His first words to the entire, hangar: "We're going to war, folks." Clapped his hands, and I'm like, "Wait, what? No, hold on now. Wait a minute. I'm not
Surprise.
what?" Oh yeah, it was like surprise, and I was like, I just wasn't ready. And then that whole I guess I'm going to war now with I guess we're going to war with Iraq. Okay, cool. And so my mindset changed, and I was lucky to be with some special operators. I had some Army Ranger guys that and some Ranger Battalion folks that were working with me in this operations, special operations, or in operations place, and kind of preparing for that. All of this to say, I didn't know anybody, and I was going to war, and it wasn't with the unit that I was with. It wasn't with people that I had trained up with. I had 2 weeks at Benning that was just to get you out the door, that didn't have anything to do with the people that you were going with. And my mindset had to change completely. So that's I think you might have heard me say this before, where I've learned how to flip a switch, and that's what I call it, flipping my switch. And at that point I flipped my switch and it was game on. And everything was, I had my smoking and joking and my BSing. And you said one thing that we appreciated or learned to appreciate, which was I came from the artillery background. At this point, I was an intel guy. And the artillery background, I was a 155 cannon cocker. So we were 155 millimeter, our howitzers that I was working off of. And we used to make fun of any artillery that wasn't bullets. If it wasn't an artillery shell, if it was a rocket, we just made fun of them. Like, oh, those guys, those rocketeers, those duck hunters. And that includes Patriot missiles. So here's my story is real quick. I stopped having any hatred or making fun of Patriot missile battalions because literally it saved my life, because we're sitting on Camp Doha. The war starts, tanks roll across the border. I won't leave across the border for about 18 more days, but we're sitting in Camp Doha, and I hear when a Patriot missile goes off. If you've ever been around one of those things, it's like a F-16 taking off in your backyard. It is so loud. These things are massive, and they shoot 2 for everything. Just to make sure, they fire 2 for everything that's coming in. So here comes a Scud missile right at us, right at the base, and these things go off, and I'm like, okay, I've heard them go off before, and then immediately they explode because they blew up 1,500 meters up. So it's they went off, and within seconds they blew up, and so they got a missile that had been fired from Iraq right above us, and I was like, yep, I love Patriot missiles, and I'll never make fun of missile artillery again. So I appreciate them a great deal. And I wrote an email back to my family at the time, and I was like, I just got to tell you guys, I know I made fun of these people before, but I love those guys now. Anyway, so I just had to. That was one thing that I learned to appreciate was missile artillery.
That's a great story indeed. I mean, there was definitely probably also pressure mentally you had to put in yourself. So how has been being overseas? What was the impact basically for your mental health within the community and then within the public? Can you explain a little bit about your experience over there? Did you take anything from that home?
You might just want to pick one of us.
Oh yeah, please. I was waiting. I thought maybe something. Nathan, just how about you start? Do you have anything you take from that? would you take care more of your mental health because of what you experienced over there, maybe?
Yes, yeah. So definitely, you experience things that are very different than what most people do, right? And it's actually I can go back to kind of something Gally said. He mentioned the loneliness factor. That was actually more significant for me in Kuwait than it was in Afghanistan. You're not as intensely working, so you have a little bit more downtime. And no matter how well you know the guys that you're working with, right? I mean, compared to what I was doing, at least in Afghanistan, Kuwait was closer to 9 to 5 almost. Like you had a lot more time off. But
It was a 9 to 5.
yeah, so there you go. But like the people you know through the military, especially if in both of our cases they're people that you just met, no matter how well you get to know them, no matter how much PT you do together or how much you work together in the office, it'll never be the same as your friends of 15 years back home or your family or anything like that. And there's definitely like, I mean, I definitely had a few days where I'd get off work, I'd go back to my room, I'd play some video games or something, and then I'd get ready for bed. And it's just like, I feel super by myself and I have a roommate. It's like, I have somebody right next to me, like 8 feet away. But it's a different experience because all the people that you share that more, I guess, intimate, close relationship with, they're not there, and they're a 12 or 13 hour time difference in my case away. So it's even hard to communicate because you're on completely opposite schedules. So yeah, I mean it's one of those things that it pushes you in ways that you don't expect, and it definitely affects the way you think. So coming home from something like that, I mean, I certainly got as we were talking about appreciation, I got a more significant appreciation after that of like, I feel like I'm pretty resilient. I've been through some interesting stuff in life, but even I still had nights where I was just like, wow, I just feel crummy because it's just you feel so separated, and so it's yeah, the appreciation and just kind of learning of like it really does affect everybody, no matter how strong you think you are, no matter what you've been through before, you can still have these moments or days or whatever it happens to be where you struggle a little bit, and that's everybody.
That's super interesting. Gary, what about you? How did your military experience impact your view on your mental health in retrospective?
I would say like kind of like what Nathan was saying, like yeah, you just don't realize how um lonely it can get until you're in the thick of it. Like, like I said, I wasn't in a situation where I was being in combat every day, but I was in a situation where I was just it gets very mundane. You do the same things, like you get up, go to the chow hall, go work out, go do your job, come back, sit at your bunk, watch whatever entertainment, because like he said, there's a lot of downtime. I watched a lot of movies and shows and play. Now, we would hang out with each other too, like guys in our unit and stuff, but um, so I guess kind of like because there's always that mentality when you're in that overadapt and overcome. You got to just keep going. You got to just embrace the suck it up. You can't tell anybody how you feel. Um, don't tell anybody that what you're feeling. Don't tell any of your other soldiers what you're feeling. Just keep going, just keep doing it. And I mean, we would have conversations with each other to make sure we were okay, make sure we were going like stuff and then too, like when you're deployed or overseas like that, like what if things at home aren't going right? Luckily, I was not married. I didn't have kids at the time. I don't know how now, if I was still in now with 3 kids and a wife, being overseas for 8 months, and then stuff at home is not going well, and I'm not there because as a husband you want to be there to fix it, right? Like you just want to jump in and you want to like solve the problem. Well, you can't do that from however many miles away. And then in some situations, if you're in a combat zone or whatever, you can't even talk to your loved ones for extended period of time, or you might not get to talk to them really a lot. And when you do, it's very short and brief, and you're missing milestones and you're missing stuff. So, um, I think to like circle back to your question about how it affected my mental health, I definitely learned to have people while I was there to talk to and vent to, and people that I trusted that way, you kind of don't feel like you're going crazy. And then once I got home, I felt like I could almost not deal with any situation, but I could deal with most, or deal with a lot of stress because I was already put in that situation at a young age. I turned 21 when I was deployed, so I was very young, and I just felt like I went through a lot, and I was able to go through that. And I was actually dating my wife when, we went through that. So I feel like going through that whole process of not being able to see her, only talking to her, via phone, or I used to use Skype. Actually, I use my computer to call people's phones on my computer through Skype. So that's how I used to talk to everybody back home. But yeah, I mental health wise, I think I just gained some resiliency, you know.
That's super interesting. I have a question in between quick for you guys, because you both talked about also routines. Did you take some of these routines to your civilian life now? Like, do you have still routines where you think like this is helpful for you? I mean, it doesn't have to be, all negative.
I mean, I would
Um,
say I did
yeah.
right up until the COVID lockdown started, and that kind of broke all routines,
Mhm.
honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah, like on my last deployment, we had a few of us had really aggressive workout schedules, and some of us, we came home and kept those up until the gyms closed and everything. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely things that you pick up that are like maybe your morning routine shifts slightly, and then you kind of bring a little bit of that back with you. I know I did. My
Mhm.
mornings are different than they would have been before I ever deployed.
Mhm. I think that's super interesting. Um,
Yeah. Oh, God.
please go ahead.
Oh no, I was
Right?
just gonna say, like, I think one thing I bring from my military experience is like attention to
Mhm.
detail. Because of the job that I had, I was always like checking serial numbers, and I had to make sure like all the weapons were in, and that was like my job. So, and like I would do inventory with officers and stuff like that. So my attention to detail was like, even now I even catch myself like, okay, I don't need to be so attention to detail right now. Like, it doesn't matter. It's okay.
Mhm.
So I think that's one thing that I kind of brought home, or
Mhm.
still do in my
Right.
civilian life after being out, for a couple years.
Right. D- Didi, I don't know if you don't have anything to add. I would say we bring a
Um,
quick clip of Stackup, if you don't mind, but please go
yeah.
ahead.
Well, I was gonna say, like, in terms of just the kind of compare and contrast. Like when I went to, again, when I went to Iraq, it was the ground war, and it was
Hmm.
wild wild west. It was not like anything else. The first year of that war, and is not like, it's not comparable to, like, I don't have a comparison to somebody who actually deployed a year or 2 years after me, or even longer in Iraq, because their deployments were vastly different. The way that the combat was done, the way that the insurgency was run. So like we had the insurgency and everything else, but I lived a movie. I lived at 100 miles an hour, and it was all adrenaline, and I felt like I was in a movie. It felt surreal, despite things blowing up and people and shooting things and all of that other stuff. And I was not a combat person. I was a liaison team, working in Baghdad, and literally not like a normal war deployment. And I never got to process a lot of that stuff. When I went to Afghanistan, that was with an attack helicopter battalion. That was, doing, whether it was escort missions, or, troops in contact, or actually offensive operations that we were doing out there, killing bad guys. My time in Afghanistan was vastly different. That whole year was a combat deployment, and there was a lot of isolation. I lived on lots of different fobs, from northeast Afghanistan to eastern Afghanistan. Did a lot of, was supportive of a lot of combat operations. We had a lot of things that did impact and that can inform like this conversation. Like, we did have a lot of mental health issues. We did have people take their life in combat. We did have in a combat zone. We did have people missing their family, and getting the Dear John letters. Iraq, like I said, I don't have a comparison for that, because there's just nothing that was like that first part of that ground war. Nothing really compares. It's literally movies will be made, and are going to be made about how crazy that whole episode was. But coming back from all of that, I never really unpacked like my experience in Iraq because of how fast and immediate and so much it was. And I was actually enjoying myself. I was a staff sergeant. I was, on a cool team of cool people. And then Afghanistan, I was processing the whole time I was there. The depression, the isolation. I also wasn't married at the time. I got married after I had retired from the Army. So that, like, this is something that I will talk about, or I do talk about. You might have heard me say, I met my wife as I was retiring. She's the only constant in my life that knows me out of a uniform. Everybody else in my life knew me before, during, and after, and I can connect with her more than I can connect with anybody else because we share that one timeline. Everybody else, connecting with my family a lot of times, or just friends that I might have had from before the military, or even people in the military, just vastly different timelines, and it's very hard to share those experiences because there's no relatability. I can talk to my wife about the things that I experienced, and I don't fear like the prejudgment or, well, you never acted like that, or I wouldn't have expected that of you, because there isn't an expectation. Whereas like with your family and people that knew you before you deployed, and how the things that have changed in your mind after your deployment, everybody's got a preconceived, you. Like, they know who Nathan was before he deployed. They know who Gally was before he deployed. And now they have a comparison where she doesn't have a comparison. I'm who I am. She met me as that broken person, that one that has that baggage. So that's something I think that it's really important to remember too, is that we come back with all of these experiences, and the relatability of those experiences is next to zero for people who haven't experienced them.
I'm asking myself, are you guys two different people? Like,
I
I
am.
mean, could you say like you're a different person when you were like, serving and then coming
Currently,
back?
absolutely.
And is it maybe, is that maybe the, is it so difficult for people to come back because they need to find themselves again or find another person?
Yeah, I don't know how to do this. I still, 10 years later, I don't know how to be a civilian. I don't know how to do we joke around. I'm just fine in terms of like chatting and having conversation and being a normal human being at the supermarket. But no matter where I am a different person now than I was then. And I don't know really how to do this one. I was trained to do the other one. And I became a leader and an NCO and all of that stuff in the other one. What am I supposed to do as an adult man in the civilian world? It's like, we didn't get trained for that. They didn't
No,
issue
yeah.
me that,
Well, that was
Absolutely.
always the interesting part too. Like, and I'm sure Nathan can attest to this as well. But like, that's always the interesting part about being in the Guard is when you're doing your just drill weekends. You go do your weekend. I would always tell my friends, yeah, I'm going to play Army this weekend. Go do my military job, and then I would be back. I was landscaping back then. I didn't work for the railroad, but it was just funny, like always switching back and forth. But then I always have those parts in my brain that are like my active duty time. So like my deployment, I remember a lot of that because that was all a bunch of months where I was doing the Army thing, or my training, because it was a bunch of months where I was doing the Army thing all the time. It wasn't this like constant back and forth. So, I don't know if that like helps to kind of transition back into civilian life because we're always doing it anyway, like going back and forth. But yeah, I mean, I was definitely more sheltered when I was like, not sheltered, but like I guess I talk about stuff more now than I would probably when I was in. So
I just wanted to just kind of clarify something, because I actually share something with the both of you guys there. Like, I had full active duty service for 10 years. And then I got out and I joined the Guard, but my entire time in the Guard was all full time. So, and it was, and it was all deployment, over half of that was deployed, gone. So I have time doing citizen soldier stuff, Title 32 National Guard stuff.
yeah.
But I was never M Day. There was never, there was, and never an M Day soldier, which means, a traditional 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks in the summer type of, if that was ever a reality, it stopped being a reality like decades ago. Anybody who's ever said like, join the Guard or join the reserve, you only do 1 weekend a month or 2 weeks in the summer, is all full of shit. Because that's like a 1990s Army. That is not a 2000 plus Army.
right?
No.
So I think kind of what Gally was saying. I think it does help a little bit, but it's not as much as you might think in some ways. Because one of the units I was in, we would like a weekend could be we go paintballing, and we call that like weapons training, and we're out there shooting each other with paintballs, and we are doing something useful that is good training. But it's not the same as
Where
what
was that
you
unit
intensity,
at?
right? It's not the same type of intensity that you have when you're overseas. So like when I was in Afghanistan, I mean, we were running at 110% every single day. Like we basically didn't get days off. Right? We were either traveling, packing for travel, prepping for the next thing we were doing, or like there was just you just were constantly moving, and I guess it does help a little bit, you would think, but at least for me, I still had it's still a very big transition going to and coming back each time. Might help a little, but not as much as, at least for me personally, it didn't help as much as I assumed it would.
Guys, we have all almost 45 minutes in, and we didn't talk once about Stackup. Well, let's talk about breaking stigmas. I mean, we are talking about it all the time. I think I read somewhere, Didi, that Stackup is calling it like a mental health epidemic. Because suicide rates, are rising. And maybe let's start with that, Didi. Can you give us a little bit of background, like how was Stackup founded and why?
Um, Short story was my executive director went to Iraq about the same time I did, and he was an Army Ranger with a bunch of infantry guys. And as he was deployed out there, he had a little Game Boy Advance that he took with him. That's just something that he was using, like in his BDU pocket. He'd have games, Final Fantasy Tactics, I think he'd play. But people were sending care packages all the time, and they got a a care package that was full of romance novels, right, from a library that somebody had very kindly, with good intentions, sent a bunch of novels from a library that were romance novels. And so all these infantry guys were like, what do we do with this? And so they shot at him and blew him up. And because that was, you got to put him to good use. So, but that got him thinking, well, they were trying to do the right thing and they were trying to do something helpful. They just didn't know really how. And so when he returned, his driver went back to Iraq. And so him now being out of the service, he put together the first supply crate, which had an Xbox and some games and all that, and he shipped that off to Iraq to his driver. So that kind of began the process of who we are today and what we're doing. But when we talk about like the epidemic of suicide, that's been going on for most of the 20-something year war that we had ever since September 11th. We've always had a higher suicide rate in the military. Folks that have experienced combat stress, combat fatigue, trauma, war wounds, whatever that is. And not all wounds are physical, right? A lot of wounds, we bring stuff home all the time. We package it up and we put it away and we don't get to deal with it. And even if you didn't deploy, that doesn't mean that you didn't have some other type of military stressor. There's people out there with military sexual trauma, with injuries from non-deployments, just training missions or just everyday stuff. But we have for a long time talked about 22 a day. That's 20 over 100 people in the United States a day take their life. That's just a random statistic. It's about 110 or something like that. 22 of those ended up being veterans of some capacity. After this pandemic that we've had with COVID, and we've had people isolated, we know that that number has increased because people were further isolated. We just don't know how much more that's increased. So the entire topic of conversation is really focused around trying to impact that 22 a day, whatever that real number is, and bring that down. If we can make that number zero, that's the goal. You want to keep all of the veterans that are here with us, and we don't have a corner on the market of mental health issues, but we are very, very, very specifically higher than most any other field out there in terms of suicide rates. So out of all the people that commit suicide, over 20% of them happen to be veterans. That's a problem. That's an issue. And that's for as adults. So that's what we're trying to do with Stackup. Stackup is focused on mental health and suicide prevention through gaming and geek culture. Everything that we do is focused in some way, in some capacity, of using gaming or board gaming or D&D or tabletop stuff or cosplay or nerdy geeky things. Whatever you do that's nerdy or geeky, we are trying to take that and use it and leverage it to make the worst thing in your mind the last thing in your mind. and that way maybe the last thing in your mind doesn't get a chance to consume you when you got it so far back there. It's not something ever present in the forefront, and you get to hang out with other people, play games, and meet some other people, maybe even have a conversation with somebody who does understand if you feel so inclined. But most of it is just the healthy distraction is just enough sometimes just to keep people here with us.
Yeah. And thank you, Nathan, for sharing the link. I just want to say, and if you're a veteran or you're just watching this, you can join here the Discord community of Stackup. Nathan just linked it in the chat. They have a very open community, and they have a 24/7 support there as well. So if you have mental health issues, you can get help there. You can talk to someone, or you just want to find friends to play with. This is a server you should take a look on. Also, the donations are open. Yes, Beard, the donations are open. Just put exclamation point. No, wait, what is it?
Exclamation
Come on.
mark.
What, Mark? Thank you.
Exclamation mark.
Bang.
Bang.
It's called
This,
bang.
Boom.
bang. Bang,
It's-
bang in the chat.
That's what it is. It's
Plus
called a bang.
Tony. Right?
And
If you're a
Deity,
coder.
the mental health
and guys,
stuff, that's for anybody too, right?
Right.
In the
Right.
Discord.
The suicide prevention Discord, our stop program, it's called Stackup Overwatch program. It is there for veterans. So clearly it's there to help veterans, but we're not going to gate suicide prevention. So if you're over the age of 18 and you give consent, you can go in there and you can get help. That's exactly right. But it is meant to help veterans, but we help a lot of civilians through that program as well too, because we're not going to say, oh, you're not a veteran. Sorry.
Right.
No,
Exactly.
we can't help you not commit suicide right now. We're going to help you.
Yeah.
And also, I want to say thank you so much to everyone who already did a donation today. Thank you so much. Like really, everything helps, and I'm looking forward actually to chat soon about what this money is actually doing, because there are different programs that Stackup does and different ways to help veterans actually. But before we do that, I would like to do a little video break with a video called About Stackup. They made this in 2019, I believe, and it shows and explains a little bit. So let's just watch this here quick, and then we are right back, and then we dig deeper into all the programs and what amazing things you guys are doing. Okay? All right, guys. See you soon.
Are you a veteran or currently serving?
Hey, you're back.
Perhaps you're a civilian that has a veteran in your life. We want to stack up with you. Stackup.org brings both veterans and civilians together through a
That's amazing. So let's just dig into that. Maybe can you just explain quick what programs do you guys have, and maybe well, I'm also very interested how these programs actually shifted maybe during the pandemic. I'm pretty sure like online wise, a lot of more stuff happened, right, for you guys?
Yeah, well, obviously we saw an increase in everything that we do. We saw a decrease in our air assault program, which our air assault program is where we send disabled or deserving veterans to all expense paid trips like PAX East. You saw the PAX South video when we started up, which I was there at that PAX South. It was the last PAX South in existence, RIP, because it was great. San Antonio is a fun place, and that was a great event. But when we take veterans to these things, sometimes it's because they can't afford to go on their own and they just really want to go to one of these Comic-Cons or something like that. And sometimes it's because they wouldn't have gone if it wasn't for anxiety, PTSD, something like that. And we provide that safe space. We, fly them out, put them in an Airbnb, hook them up with, whatever cool events we can hook them up with, VIP stuff, handshakes, meeting developers, playing games early, getting into cool parties, just getting that really full experience for them. During the pandemic, clearly we didn't do a whole lot of that because everything canceled. PAX East, PAX West. I mean, all of these different places were done for almost 2 years. We're back to doing it now, which is great. But in the meantime, we had to figure out, well, what else do we do? So we ramped up our supply crates. Where our supply crates, when we send those out, are sponsored care packages of games and consoles. We send those to troops that are deployed, which we still have troops deployed all over the world for U.S. and allied forces. Even though we're not in Iraq and Afghanistan anymore, we still have Marines at every embassy. We have search and rescue aircraft out all over the world doing missions in Africa throughout all different parts of the world. We do humanitarian missions. Let an earthquake happen somewhere and let us not support it. It'd be really surprising to see our military not like go and support humanitarian missions or world disasters like that. The things that happen. We sent things to India and Pakistan when they had their big earthquakes while I was in Afghanistan. Like they had a massive earthquake there and we sent relief stuff. So we're doing relief missions. We also have troops that are just deployed and stationed everywhere, to include from Germany to Korea, as well as lots of naval vessels underway. And all of those sailors that are out there on ships currently serving their missions. So there's always troops deployed, but we also send them to veterans when they're at home after service. And that could be when they're most impacted or maybe vulnerable because they don't have that military connection anymore. So all that to say is we did less of our air assaults during the pandemic because we just couldn't. The world was shutting down. But we did more of our supply crates. We also saw more people into our suicide prevention Discord because people were more affected, more isolated. So that was a direct impact by isolation during the pandemic. We also this year just launched our Phalanx House, which is something that will kind of buffer us for the next time the world decides to shut down because of coronavirus or monkeypox or whatever comes up next. Because you never know, right? You never know what's going to happen, and we're going to have to do something like that. But we have a house in California now that is $2 million mansion that we were gifted that is to support that program. That is basically got a 10 PC LAN table, a VR center, a movie theater type room with consoles and big screens and lazy boys. I believe we're going to build a streaming room specifically for that particular house. It's ADA accessible. It's got a pool. It's got a jacuzzi. It's got a D&D tavern in the backyard.
I'm up in there.
Yeah. Right. Well, I went out there, I don't know, 6-7 weeks ago to help, we're trying to like get it all cleaned up, get everything like literally hanging shelves and putting beds together and putting those PCs together. And that is literally so that if we can't go to PAX East because PAX East is not going off, we can still take veterans like we did 3 weeks ago and take them to that house, let them have a great time in California, be right next to the beach, take them to Hollywood, take them to Disney, take them to Hollywood Studios, take them any place that's out that way. And with the veterans that we took out there just recently, they were like, wow, this is wonderful. I wish I didn't know how much I needed this. So although the pandemic did impact us in many ways, we're back to full recovery now. We're back to doing our events again. I just came back from PAX East with the crew. We took some veterans out to PAX East with us out there in Boston. We've got TwitchCon EU that's coming up. I will be going to Twitch EU. I'll be going to Amsterdam, so we're going to try to connect with all of our EU content creators and let them know that we don't just support US troops, we support our allies as well. So that's, kind of how we're growing that way. So sorry, I know I might have meandered a little bit from the conversation, but
oh, that's very interesting. Open is just pulling up the stats actually here.
Yeah, that's what we did in 2021.
I can't even read all of that. Wait a
so
second.
Basically, maybe what it says,
give us some explanation. You know what it is.
Yeah. So by the end of the year last year, we were able to do some air assaults, and we packed the last. I traveled more in September, November, December than I did the whole 2 years prior, because we were taking veterans out to. We took them out to a concert, a massive concert for Trivium, because the lead singer of Trivium, Matt Hafey, is now on our board. He's now on our executive board. So he had a surprise concert in Florida, and we flew out a whole bunch of veterans to go to that concert. We did PAX West, we did Emerald City Comic-Con, we did Chicago Comic-Con, we did a bunch of these really awesome events. So we did 6 air assaults. So we were kind of getting back into the swing of things there. We also did 256 supply crates, which is significantly more, and retrofit PCs. We also do PCs, custom PCs for veterans that fall in line with our supply crate program. But as you'll notice, our engagement with our suicide prevention program through the roof
It's
during
amazing.
2021. So
I have a little question for you. I read this article about that you guys were helping somebody in the Discord for years who was like dealing with suicide and mental health issues, and he was isolated for 4 years. And then you had the PAX event, and he came there, and you were afraid that he would lose it because he was like in isolation for 4 years and didn't leave his house. And it actually was the opposite. It opened him up. I don't know if you know the story as well, or you hear it the
I don't
first
know it.
time.
Yeah, it might be. I mean,
Um,
I might tangentially know it, but I don't know much about it.
it's fun. It's fine. I just thought, like, in general speaking, um, do you think like having events like this, it's not just for people to come there. It's also this I would say like emotions in the room that
It's an
hang there,
experience.
experience, the feeling there. How does that help people mentally to overcome maybe or open up, or basically it's a change for their lives,
So
these events?
here's what I'll say. I went to my first Comic-Con last year. I've never been to a Comic-Con, and I've been to other events where we've taken veterans to, but we had veterans at that Comic-Con as well. And when I was there, I was often wondering in my head, like, what do we get out of this? Like, what do, as a veteran, I mean, I was working, but I was like, what do I get from this? And so I walked around the event for a little while, and one of the things that I noticed about a Comic-Con is there's a lot of weird. And that's not, it's not a pejorative. I'm just saying it's a lot of weird, and that is kind of beautiful, because the more you look at a Comic-Con, you look at the cosplay, you look at the things that people are
Hmm.
interested in, you look at the people wearing their costumes, the paint, the face paint, the weapons, the all of the different things they put. I mean, they put the amount of hours people put into their cosplays. I mean, I don't know where they're 3D printing things for their outfits and this other stuff, as well as all of the booths, the artwork that's there, the artists. There's Artist Alley that's there, the different types. I mean, there's something there for everybody. And the one thing I walked away from the whole Comic Con with was the comment, and this actually made it into our annual report. Actually, my tweet, I said, if you're not accepted anywhere, you're accepted at a Comic Con. Like no matter what, if you can't find a place to belong, you were accepted at a Comic-Con, because there is nothing that is there's nothing that's too strange. There's nothing that's so different. Everything is just kind of beautiful and accepted for what it is. So all I'm going to say is, for me, that was my like aha moment of, maybe that is what we really are giving to veterans, is we don't know what's going to give them the one thing that maybe makes it okay or makes something fun for them, but we give them that experience, and they couldn't have gone before. They'd never experienced that, and their mind is blown when they see just
Hmm.
the overwhelming sensation of all of the colors and the video games and the comic books and the vendors for all of the cool things that you like, whether it's a Funko Pop or whether it's lightsabers that they're making, and you get to make your own lightsaber, and they do it the customized for you, or the shows that they put on, or the panels that they have that they talk. There's so much there to experience, to visually take in, to physically experience, to personally see and
That's
obtain.
amazing.
And we're giving it and saying, hey, listen, you maybe thought this wasn't for you, or that you couldn't have gone there because of your PTSD or your anxiety. Well, we're telling you that's bullshit. You're allowed to have this. You're allowed to obtain this really cool experience. And there's just so much. And that's just Comic-Con. That's not even like a video game thing. That was, and there was like now like amplify that and go to PAX or E3, like if we had E3 back again, where it's all video game focused, right? Now you're really, same thing. You still got the cosplay, you still got the vendors and all that other stuff, but now you're focused just on video games. It's such a cool experience. And after going now to a few of these conventions, I get it. I totally get it. I totally get why this is valuable for veterans to go and get to see.
You haven't been on one of these conventions, did you, right, Gally or Nathan, or something similar in experience?
No, yeah, I've never been to an event. I mean, I would like to go. The nearest one close to me, I guess, would be PAX East, but that one already happened. Yeah, I've never been to a Comic-Con or a gaming event or anything like that. I mean, most of the time it's just because they're usually on the West Coast, so you got to travel. But
Oh, in Germany,
yeah, I've never been
Gamescom.
to one. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've been to PAX Prime, not West, it's Prime. I don't care what they say. It was awesome. It was a great experience. And I unfortunately missed last year, or a couple years ago, before COVID. I actually had 4 passes for every day, and I was stoked. And then I got orders and sent overseas instead, and I had to sell my passes. And then, of course, we had the COVID lockdown. So, and then this year I went to buy passes, and the Army's like, "Hey, you want to deploy again?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I don't. I would like to go to PAX." So I didn't buy passes, and now I'm not going deployed, and now I have to go find passes. But yeah, I'll probably almost definitely be at PAX this year. I think it's amazing. It's a lot of fun, and I think
Yeah, what
Deity's
stood out to
on
you?
it.
What stood out to you?
Deity's on it. The way he just described like the experience of walking in, and there's nothing about you that is too unusual or too strange, or there's nothing that you are too nerdy about that there's not 15, 20, or 100 other people there that are just as ridiculous and just as nerdy and know all the same like silly detaily stuff. Like you
They
find some
belong though. They belong there.
absolutely. Yep. So like you get like myself or my friends used to be really bad about like ridiculous tiny details in Star Wars, and we could like just like Star Wars Trivial Pursuit for us was a waste of time because whoever's turn it was game over because we all knew it all already. So like somebody bought it for us and it's like, well, this is dumb. It's cool, but we like it's a waste of time to play it 'cause it sucks. But like you go to something like PAX and that's where you run into other people that are just like that with games or comics or tabletop or whatever it happens to be. It's awesome. And I think it's exactly what he said. It's a place where that nerd in you that sometimes is repressed by the military a little bit because you have this super professional environment, and sometimes
Yeah.
you're like if you're in a combat environment or something, you don't get to nerd out and read comic books. You can't drag them with you. That's too much weight or space or whatever. But then you get a chance to go to PAX and you just can let it all out. And if you want to dress up as a Star Wars character or somebody from Final Fantasy or whatever you wanted to do,
Right.
you can just do it, and you can just be yourself and be around, I guess you would say, like your people a little bit. And it's awesome. They're a lot of fun. And I'll go again this year, I'm sure.
That's amazing. In point of Stackup, we have these 4 different programs. Is there any program you feel like you would like this to do within Stackup, but you know, it's just not there yet? Is there something we can look forward to see? Something new?
The Phalanx House is our newest, and that's the thing that we've been planning for a long time. And that was it took a lot of secrecy and planning for that because we didn't want to let the cat out of the bag until we had a fully dressed up house to show off. It wouldn't have looked as cool if we didn't have all the PCs and all the games and everything in there. But that right now is our in terms of things we have coming up. That's coming up because that's brand new. So we don't have anything that's outside of our current programs, and that isn't necessarily a new program. It's just an extension of how we are going to be able to service veterans both in the LA County area, because there's several 100,000 veterans just in that area alone. It's a very massive area, but also so that we can when we can't go and we don't have a big event on the books that are on the calendar, we can take veterans to that as well and amplify our air assault program in a certain way, kind of just additive. So add to that. But that's what we have. Everything else that we have planned is business as usual, with the exception of the new stuff. We are doing more custom PCs though. So again, we're amplifying programs that we already have. So we have the supply crates, but the supply crates also now are part of our retrofit programs are part of that. And so content creators that go out there and they raise $6,000, they raise a couple of supply crates to send out, but they support and sponsor a custom made PC by Stints Built. And then we send that PC out to the veterans. So it's really awesome that we're growing the programs that we have and growing in that way, as opposed to just let's add one more thing. Plus, because we're covered with a lot of good stuff. I'm sure we're going to have more in the future. This is our 7th year operating a Stackup. So we're always going to be looking for like, how do you grow? And that's, an executive, C-level type thing of how that's going to work out and what we're going to expand with. But we are clearly expanding. It's just with our current vein of how we're supporting vets.
I think you're shipping out something like 12 supply crates a week or something. Am I right? A month?
A month.
Yeah, 12 supply crates a month. I'm
Can you,
hoping.
sorry, can you give us some numbers more like about like where does the money go so people can have a picture?
Sure.
Like, that would be great, I think.
Yeah, I can give you. I don't know if you have a copy of our annual report. It just came out earlier this month, but our annual report, we like to stay, previous years, we like to stay around 89, 91% dollar to admission ratio. During 2021, that's more like 80 something percent, like 81, 82%. But you have to remember too, we weren't doing air assaults. We weren't spending money on that particular program. We invested in ourselves, in our own programs to expand those out. So that took a little bit more of the marketing dollar. But we're still extremely happy with where we're at because we know that that's higher than a lot of charities that are out there, and we're about as transparent as you could possibly be. So it's not like we're not shy about telling people that that's what happened, but we are absolutely we want to be spending the most amount of money possible that we bring in on veteran programs, which are our supply crates, our air assaults, the bringing them out to the phalanx house, our suicide prevention staff, that's a programmatic cost that we have there. Those are things that we want to be able to spend money on. So that's where the money goes. The money goes to those programs. And a lot of our stuff that we get, you'll notice on that sheet that you pulled up, it said $1.2 million. That was in cash. The rest of it was $3 million total. That's a lot of in-kind donations of hardware, software, games, booth space, all sorts of whatever the donations were, to include, I guess to some degree, the Phalanx House, since that was purchased for us, as a very massive piece of property that we get to now operate out of as our headquarters too, which reduces our cost as well. So.
I'm sorry, I'm thinking right now of a way of putting myself a beard on spontaneously, but I don't have one.
Because is Mizzi beard trending again?
Mizzi beard is trending again.
Mizzi
I
beard.
guess I would even offer you, if we hit like the 500 today, I think we are now at 390 or something. I would put a beard
Yeah.
on, but I don't have. I
Trusted-
can paint some. I can beard, but I can paint one on if you want.
Yeah.
But,
Get into
but
it
I
with a
think
pen.
yeah, with a pen, but it probably
Don't
will
do it.
stick a whole week.
No. Yeah, Trusted Beard said so we're making our good things even better, and yeah, that's what we're trying to do.
Right.
We have a foundation that is functional. It works. We have expanded it. Our stop
Okay.
program was the most recent thing that we added. So that's about 4 years old. We adding that to our repertoire, and that was just something we just identified as a need. Having a Discord, which is ubiquitous with gamers, for a place to go. There's the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, as everybody knows. But sometimes talking to somebody on a phone, for a veteran specifically, or even just talking about your mental health, it's like there's a trust issue there. I don't know you. It's hard to get through that barrier. Talking is hard. Getting your words out to express your feelings is hard for a lot of people. Typing them out, however, which is also why you have a lot of trolls on the internet, kids, because typing out the bad words that your mom would smack you for saying is easier than saying them out loud and getting slapped for them. But in the same vein, you can tell people about how you feel if you're typing it and chatting about it, or even when you get into a voice call, you're talking anonymously as my name is the Nathan V625, and I'm anonymous here. There's a Privacy Act, issue that we're covering. No one will ever know that I've come in here and told you about my crisis and my problems. There's a safety there. So we just capitalized on that because we know that people they need a place to go. And so just growing our programs that way, we've grown our stop program immensely because of need. As you noticed, 431 contacts, intakes last year, which was like 30 something percent higher than the year before in 2020, which was already an increase. So anyway, we are continuously growing and growing our programs as we have them. But yeah, that's what we've covered all of it. I think we've covered everything that Stackup does. So.
Yeah, it sounds really like you guys found a gap, especially with the combination of having like gaming, and the Discord helps a lot, and you really know how to use the tools to reach the people the best way, it feels. I really like it. I like that. And yes, Beard, I'm so glad actually you put the message in here again because I couldn't see it before anymore. So I read your story about these guys. So I don't know, Kyle, if you're watching, thank you so much for your $20, and thank you so much for trusting Beard to give him the $20 without knowing
They
it.
wouldn't use it on the way home,
Right,
Stop at
and-
Wawa, get a coffee.
right.
Wawa. Oh, where are you at? You're Southeast US?
Who
What?
beer? Oh, me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in South
was-
Jersey.
Yeah. Oh, you're okay. Because Wawa,
Yeah.
we ain't no Wawa out here, but I know what
Yeah,
Wawa
I'm
is.
like
Wawa?
30 minutes from Philly, but Beard is up in Long Island, I think. I think that
Okay.
Wawa's up there, or he's close to up there somewhere.
Yeah, Mizzi.
But
So like, if you ever
Of
heard of like
course.
a 7-Eleven or Circle K, and those are
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
very unique. You know, they're convenience stores that
Oh,
are
Florida.
iconic U.S. convenience stores, but they don't exist everywhere in the U.S. They're
No.
very regional. So, like when I grew up in Chicago, we had something called White Hen Pantry. You come out to California, and you've got Circle K's and some 7-Elevens in certain parts of that, and then Wawa is another one of those. So there's these really iconic
Yeah.
convenience stores that everybody knows of, but only if you're near them. It's kind of like Crystal Burger if you're south of a certain state, and then it's White Castle if you're in the Midwest and north into Chicago. So
Buc-ee's. Yeah, we don't have
Buc-ee's?
Buc-ee's. But
You guys
Sorry,
make me
on
hungry.
the convenience store top. Well, it's funny because Deity, even like in the Northeast here, it's different. Like where I grew up in Pennsylvania, you have Sheetz and Turkey Hill. They don't have
Sheetz.
Wawas. With
Sheetz, yep.
Sheetz, I think the closest Sheetz you can get is like North Carolina. The further south you go on the East Coast. But Wawa started in New Jersey, as Beard was saying, and now they've kind of like migrated to other states as well. So it's just funny when you go different places around here. Different. There actually is a Circle K in South Jersey. It's like the only one I've ever seen. And every time we pass it, my coworker's like, "What is Circle K? I've never even heard of that."
And every time I hear it, I think of Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Something's afoot at the local Circle K.
Is it like
Demas.
Mexican food?
No,
Bloody
it's
ass.
just
Is it like Mexican food?
it's just convenience store food. So it's just like
Yeah.
you can go in there, get a hot dog and a energy drink, and get your gas,
Guys,
Or in
you
the case
don't
of 7-Eleven,
you don't know
it's a
me.
slushy.
You really don't know. You should know you're never allowed to talk about food with me. I'm getting hungry. Like immediately. Damn.
Well, this is all this is gas station food. It is great and terrible.
It doesn't
at the
matter.
same
I'm hungry
time.
now.
Yeah.
Like there's nothing like it's actually probably fake food. It just tastes good and fills you up
It's fake
immediately,
food.
but it's just
Yeah.
there's like no sustenance in there.
No, yeah, definitely. Wawa definitely drops their stuff in and boils it like in a bag, and then
boils it
like
in a
serves
bag.
it. Yeah. No,
Didi,
serious.
I'm so sorry. I know we are kind of running out of time because you have to go sooner, and I have 3 questions left, which are
Sure.
really related also to you. I was thinking about with all your experience, and I mean, actually, a question for all of you guys. Maybe you have something, but with all your experience right now, also with working like in the US, but also working overseas, do you think like other governments or other states are doing on some parts maybe even a better job on mental health? Like what can we learn from each other is basically the questions. Did you see something out there where you think like the system is failing, obviously, but maybe there are some little systems in the system which would help the situation in total?
Well, I'll say this, and I'll let the other guys talk. And have that. But the reason why charities exist, it doesn't matter what it's for, whether it's for breast cancer or kids' diseases or mental health for veterans. The reason why they exist is because there's a gap in society that isn't being filled to service those people. And like cancer is a great example, right? We haven't solved cancer yet, and we can't treat all of the cancers that we have, and we have all of these other problems. So we have cancer charities to do the research and to put those things in, because we're not meeting that governmentally. And so that's just a failure on our part as humans, is not investing. What do you do? So same thing with veterans and suicide prevention, and mental health. The VA in the United States it gets a bad rap for a lot of things, and I don't want to badmouth the VA just for badmouthing the VA's sake, but one thing that the VA doesn't do very well is mental health, because they've never really had to experience that before. You go back to World War II, World War I, and all of those veterans that came back that experienced far more trauma than I ever could have. Yet they lived their lives, and they had all of those issues with their mental health, and they just never really got to deal with them, because we called it shell shock, or we called it other things. We didn't really categorize things as post-traumatic stress disorder or trauma disorders, right? But they've never really had to focus on how to make people better here. That's just you got a limb blown off. Okay, well, let's cauterize the wound and cauterize the wound, and then give you a prosthetic, and that's like that's the best that they've done really well with some of that stuff. You look at some of the vets that actually have gone through that, and they do Walter Reed and all these other things. They do good with physical stuff. Mental stuff they've always failed at, and the reason why, in my personal experience, is because they've got a one size fits all tactic to mental health most of the time, which is usually pills and group therapy, and those don't always do it for everybody. So when we talk about what we do for veterans and say gaming, and people are like, what do you mean video games? That's not like a therapy. It's like, hold on. Let me just shut your face for a second and listen. For some people, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. For some people, they go to church, right? That's their faith. Maybe that's what gives them something and they get something back from that. That's not everybody. For some people, it's their family. For some people, it's going to the gym, getting that euphoric high, getting those endorphins rushed. However you're getting that serotonin boosted is a benefit. In some cases, it is a pill. But not everybody wants to sit around and kumbaya and talk about their experiences with a group of people, and not everybody wants to talk in general. So that stuff is hard. So why not one more tool in your tool belt? Video games do help people with their mental health. There's studies on this now, which is great that we actually talk about that, and that we actually have actual studies about how gaming and other forms of recreation do help therapeutically for mental health in veterans. So you asked, is there a gap, or is there some countries that do it better or some places that do it better? I don't have a direct answer for who does it better, but we all can do better by entertaining different ways that are safe and therapeutic, and they're not hurting anybody else, where this is one more tool in your tool belt. Why would you not want to go to war with another magazine, right? This is just one more capability, right? And this is war. We're trying to fight suicide. We're trying to fight mental health. This is now just a different type of war. So I'll just say that. And again, it wasn't to badmouth the VA. I love my staff at the VA that take care of me for other things. That is the one thing that they've just not been able to do successfully, is mental health. I've never seen it happen. Maybe one day, but in the meantime, this is what we're doing out here. We're playing some Among Us, or playing some Mario Kart, and that's how we're getting our therapy.
Right. What about you, Nathan? I mean, you have been all over the world as well. Have you seen anything where you think like this was interesting?
Well, as far as like to kind of continue what Deity is saying, like there's definitely gaps in the system. There's cases like somebody I know that they didn't get good support from the VA until they reached the point of being suicidal, because the other programs leading up to that point for them just didn't work. There's a case like, I mean, all three of us here are non-combat MOSs, it sounds like, right? So
Yes.
group, like some of the group therapy sessions, you might walk into something like that and you have an experience that, as like I was Signal, Deity's Intel, like other people in the military will look at you and go, what did you go through that was so bad? But it doesn't, like, your experience can be bad regardless of what your job is or what you did over there, or it can be all kinds of different sources of trauma for somebody. And those group events can make that more difficult, because you walk into that event and then somebody's talking about, an experience they had as a frontline infantryman in combat, and it can make you feel a little smaller because what you went through is different. And sometimes that makes it harder for you to open up and say, yeah, this happened to me on base, or it's a different environment. And that's exactly kind of what he's saying. Like the one size fits all doesn't work, because there are cases where just simply that environment isn't conducive. And I fall into the case of one of the people that I can disappear into a video game and my day is just better. Give me a couple hours of playing Lego Star Wars and my day is just suddenly improved. It's a way to escape a little bit, and it lets you fight your demons in your own way a little bit and escape. And that can be a great solution for people, because not everybody works well in these therapy environments.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I feel so, Gary, you feel the same way, I think. I think what I heard out of everything is like, in the end, we are individuals and we need individual approaches for our own mental health. And maybe that's something where definitely is also a gap that, like you said, like they try to find one solution for everyone just to say they had a solution, but it's just not working, I guess. But
Yeah,
that's
it's no
very
one size
interesting.
fits all. Think of it as a multi-tool. Like the reason, the coolest thing in the military that you could ever have on in your uniform is a totally unauthorized multi-tool that they don't issue you, because it's got everything from a knife to a screwdriver to a bottle opener to a file to But that's it. This is what we're trying to do here. A multi-tool. How do we help a veteran? How do we help
Mhm.
anybody? Let's not throw away things that are helpful because they're not clinical necessarily, or because we don't quite understand them. It's like, that's silly. That's just dumb.
Right. By the way, guys, because I saw the question also in chat before, this charity is, of course, this is open all year. We will not stop with Stackup the whole year. This is just the beginning today. And we have lots of great streams and streamers coming up. We are working this year, and we are working towards the 11th November, this year. And then we will have a big final event, and hopefully looking forward to reach our main goal. But really, if you want to donate, again, yeah, you see the link coming up. Just take a look. Every dollar helps, and we are very grateful for everything you guys help to support this cause. Thank you so much, really, everyone. Much appreciated. Thank you all for your help, and thank you for listening to everything here. Also, I forgot actually to say it. You should know better here in chat. If you have any questions here for Didi or Gally or Nathan here, please just bring them up in chat. We will pick them up, of course. We love to talk always about everything you have in your mind. Well, I would say, Didi, you have to go probably like in 6 minutes, right? Or
I
you want
do need to plan my escape. I have a meeting with a content creator just like yourselves that I need to get set up and actually to do their own charity event as well. So that's something else that I do. That's my entire job at Stackup. I'm not just a pretty beard on the internet. I like to talk about veteran
Damn
stuff.
it.
I love to do these things because I'm very passionate about veterans mental health, and just working through that for my own stuff. It gives me something back. To be able to support that way. But my entire job here with Stackup is to help content creators to do these interactions, to have these conversations, but also to get people set up to do their own charity events, to raise money for and fundraise for those supply crates and those air assaults and those PCs. And so that's what I'm going to go do here in a few minutes, is going to go help somebody else get set up for that. But I want to say, first of all, Mizzi, thank you so much, because we've been talking about this
Thank
for like
you.
2 years.
Yes.
We've been talking about working together and doing something, and we've worked together for other things and other gaming stuff. But we've been talking about doing something with Stackup and Gamerswecare for over 2 years, and so that's just it's nice to be able to kind of see where that has gone, and to see you guys plugging into this with all of the people that you have joining the team now and doing things. It's really neat. And so, Nathan, it's nice to meet you. I know that I've got this is the first time that I've you and I have encountered. I wish we had more time here. I'm sure we'll have plenty. And you guys all have my DMs, and so we can always do that. Gally, it's always a pleasure, man. Haven't talked to you in quite a long time.
Yeah.
So
good, man.
Didi,
very cool.
Didi, one last question, quick. Maybe we can finish it with that. How can
Yeah.
influencers, if they see that, how can they get involved with Stackup? What
My
do
pin
you
pinned
recommend?
tweet. My pinned tweet. Go to my Twitter and go to my pinned tweet. All my information is there. You can DM me. You can send me a friend request on Discord. You can DM me on Twitter. You can send me an email. But
Oh,
everything
sorry,
is on
that was me.
everything is on my
I stay.
my Twitter pinned tweet.
Yeah.
My pittered
And if you're
twin Pete. What did I just say? My pittered twinned Pete. That's
and
not
if
even
you're
a thing.
if you're a creator too, it's not I just want to say, like, it's not hard to set the donor drive thing up. It's very simple, and Deity is there every step of the way. He'll DM you, and he's very good at what he does. And any
Yes,
help you need or
extremely.
any questions, even if it's just like hey, how do I do this like on my stream? I'm sure he'd be like, oh, you just have to do this.
And if I don't know,
He'll
I'll
help
ask
you out.
Pun.
So yeah, right.
Pun's the guy that if you guys don't know, friggin' Paul Punisher, he's behind the scenes right pushing
Selfless plug.
buttons.
I like it.
Yeah, selfless plug. But if you ever have questions about YouTube or streaming or audio or anything else,
Exactly.
hit up Pun, because he's the real genius there. That'll hook you up.
Do we have still the wait? I don't know if the command is active now. It's it's off. It's off, unfortunately. Well, Joe is probably. But Joe, put his link in here in chat. That would be so nice. Thank you. No, but you're absolutely right. We wouldn't be anywhere without Pan, I think.
He's helped a
Um,
lot of people, and he's got a great channel out there that he looks at a lot of. I'm going to plug him. I'm just going to plug him right now. If you go to his YouTube and go and check out some of the stuff that he's looked at everything from cameras to microphones to peripherals to OBS settings to the different, probably. I bet you I'm not even going to say that he does, but I bet you pun you've got an XSplit video out there for people that like XSplit because you probably used all of that software. But he's somebody that knows how to break down those things and tell you what works, how to fix it. And
oh,
then,
it was TFS.
yeah.
Yeah, I used the one command. Thank you so much, Joe. Exactly. Just check out his YouTube stream. You will find so many good information about basically everything you need to set up your stream. Well, really big thank you to you, Didi, for jumping on the stream and explaining everything to us tonight. I think we could learn a lot from Stackup again and from your work. Really exciting to do this with you this year. And I know you will help so many other influencers and streamers like ourselves to get set up. Thank you for your great work. It's really it's so easy to work with you. I can tell you this, guys. If you're a content creator, this is probably the best charity you can start with if you want to get into it,
My
because he
pleasure.
has everything you need to get started. Well, thank you, Didi, and I hope you have a great. You're still Sunday, yeah? It's still
Yeah,
it's Sunday.
it's more
Okay.
charity streams, so we're rocking and rolling. This is Mental Health Awareness Month, so we're
Nice.
doing it. All right,
I
guys,
wish you
take
all the
care.
very best. You
Thank you
too.
so
See you
much.
later. Thank you, man.
Bye.
Guys, I would do a little break
Yeah.
again. I would like to show another video quick, and the title of the next one is I can see it. Is it Global Gaming Citizens? I think this is the next one we wanted to show you guys quick. And after that, we are back. Just take a look quick. And if you want, you can donate, of course, as well. See you I think the video is going 1 minute. See you soon, guys. That's amazing. I feel we completely forgot to talk about explicitly about the fact that they are actually supporting veterans worldwide. I feel like not many people know that actually about Stackup, and I actually forgot to ask them how does it work actually? How can they reach out? But I know for a fact if you go on stackup.org, you can fill out a form as a veteran to get a supply credit. You can actually apply for it over there. We will put the link of the website soon in here again. Um, I think we didn't even talk about Nathan and Gally. How did you actually get in touch with Stackup the first time? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was like when I first started streaming on Twitch. I didn't really have a follow. When did I found out about their Discord? It was on Twitch. It was somebody's. I don't know if it was Deity or somebody else through the like Battlefield 1 community. I think I found out about it something around that time period. And I had just started streaming, and I remember like I jumped in their Discord, and I was like, I'm too small. I can't do that. I can't raise money for charity. I'm just some small streamer. I can't do any of that stuff. So I didn't do anything for a while. And then a couple months went by, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. I don't care. Like, I want to help out because I didn't mention it while Deity was here, but we dealt with a suicide in my unit. So it kind of hits home a little bit, I guess, because I got a phone call one day from one of my NCOs, and they're like, hey, so-and-so, is not here anymore. It was right before, well, our deployment got pushed back a couple times, but it was right before we were going to get deployed. And so I wasn't like extremely close with the person, but still, it's somebody that you would go to drill, and still, and to me being the unit armor, like I pretty much interacted with every single person in my unit because they would always hand in their stuff to me. So I kind of like knew everybody, even if I didn't hang out with them all the time. I kind of like knew everybody in my unit anyway. So but yeah, I think that's when I kind of found Stackup originally, was around Battlefield 1 time frame.
2018.
No, yeah, it was like 2017, I think.
Right. Something like that. Interesting. What about you, Nathan?
As soon as you asked, I started thinking about it. I was like, "What? How did I find them?"
Yeah.
I think it was just somebody's panel, like somebody I was watching on Twitch. Like for me, long term, I'd always intended to do more charity stuff as we're doing this year, and Stackup just happened to be one of the ones that I saw like in somebody's panels, and I checked it out and kind of noted it for later. And I had a similar hesitation to Gally when I first started, which was like, I'm brand new. I'm trying to just get affiliated. There's no way I can do charity right now because like it's me and like a friend that's watching me, and I'm like, it's not going to go anywhere.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't do anything with Stackup my first year of streaming, and of course now this year, it's a part of my schedule. So
you're doing only charity streams, right?
Correct.
And I think you did go full in after our last podcast, right? This year, right? In January. How does it go so far? What did you learn from that? I mean, doing only charity streams, is it different to... Yeah,
it's definitely different. So yeah, that was the big announcement that I held back from last time we did the podcast, because the timing was like, I'm gonna do this like tomorrow or tonight or whatever it was, and it was like, crap, all right, we're gonna wait. But yeah, so this year I'm all charity all year, all streams for everything. And so if I get paid from Twitch or affiliate or like anything that comes in related to the stream, it all goes to a particular charity each month. And like I was kind of saying though at the beginning, like that's actually kind of how I started streaming in the first place. It was I was watching somebody else on Twitch. Like every year they would stream for Extra Life, and I kind of one day was like, I could do that too. Like I could totally also play video games in front of a camera and try to raise money. And then, started streaming. It was like, oh, there's nobody here. How do I do this? Like, how do I get people to show up? So I took the time to try to just figure it out and grow a bit. And then it worked out, the timing for this year. It was like, I can, the stream's at a point where I have some momentum and we can start doing that, because I'd already started doing charity for Extra Life and Toys for Tots previously. So once I was at a point where it's like, I think, okay, I can do this now all the time. We just jumped into it. As far as like, I think you asked like kind of learning or like lessons along the way. It's a really interesting thing to try to describe to people, because there's obviously a lot of people on Twitch that make a living on Twitch, or they use it to supplement their income or something. And when you say, I give that all away, it sometimes people just they're like, wait, what? You don't make any money? It's like, no, I don't. I stream 20 hours a week and I take nothing from it. But that's something that I just always wanted to do with it long term anyway, was to just take it all. And that was the point, was to get to a point where I could start supporting others. So veterans charities, kids charities, stuff for people that have medical issues or whatever. And honestly, it's been amazing. We did the first 2 months of the year was for Able Gamers, which I think is an awesome charity that supports people that are differently abled. And that was like a great way to just start the year. So yeah, I mean, it's been an awesome experience, and I feel very humbled that I get to do it.
Yeah. By the way, thank you so much for the donation. I just see it in the chat. Yes, we had this issue with Restream here. So we said for this stream today, because we're using Restream, we have basically potato chips in here. He's our personal, there's a donation coming in.
He's our notification bot.
Right? He's right?
Nice.
Right? So,
I like it.
but the next streams, we do everything regularly over LBS and have we stream our panel in here as well. It's just we had to adjust for this stream.
Adapt
But
and overcome.
we see everything is coming in, guys. So thank you so much, really. Yeah, you're a live bot here. But that's amazing, Nathan. I wish you all the best for your endeavors here for this year. And I'm really looking forward to also, chat here and there with you to see, because I feel like doing charity streams is different. And so it's you don't meet many people who are only focusing on that or who are doing this a lot. So I think it's really interesting to see that. And also more and more people are also interested now in doing charity streams, I see. So it is kind of a growing market as well, it feels. Gally, maybe we just switch a little bit to, we have these 6 fun questions. Do we want to do the fun questions here? The 6 fun short questions? Before we talk about what's going next.
Yeah. Questions. I'm curious.
So I'm not taking responsibility. Yeah. Oh, that's also nice. Yes. Thank you so much. So we do have a live feed now. But the live feed is that there? Yeah. Yeah, 145 we have now on the Gamerswecare channel today. Thank you so much, guys, for all the donations. That's perfect. I love it.
Nice. Yeah, it should be more altogether. It should be more than that.
Yeah, altogether it is more, but that's only for this today's stream. So
nice.
Where are the questions? Let me see quick. Yeah, that's an easy one.
What is the total? Nice.
Most anticipated game in 2022 for you guys, Nathan, Gally? What's the game? You're grinding maybe? You're grinding maybe already, or you want to grind? How did you mean the question, Gally? What was your question? Most anticipated game in 2022?
I don't really think I have one, honestly.
It's good that you put the question there.
Can we say most anticipated game to get better?
Yes.
Is that a thing?
We make it a thing. Also here in chat, guys, come on, bring it on. What's most anticipated game?
Oh yeah, God of War. I mean, the new God of War, but I can't play that till it comes out on PC. So I'm not like super. Well, I'm excited for it to come out, but I have to wait for it to play it. So yeah, I don't really have anything else. Just been kind of doing Battlefield and Siege. I mean, Siege always has updates, but it's not a new game, So
I have a kids game I want to get better at. If you ask them, I'm really bad at it. I'm so bad at it. I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated that I'm so bad at it. That bad.
What is it?
Can't remember the name. It costs $2 or something. I need to look it up. It's something with crocodile. It's like a jump and run game, basically like a Mario jump and run game, but with a crocodile. And I bought it for my kids, and I can't play it. I'm too bad.
I guess to answer the question right now, probably the game I'm most excited for is probably Stalker 2, which is slated to be about the end of the year. It may or may not get pushed because there's everything going on in Ukraine. But I started playing the original Stalker. I heard about the original Stalker 6 years or something like that before it came out because it took forever. And then when it finally came out, I absolutely loved the game. So the fact that we're going to have a new one, I think, is pretty amazing. I was really looking forward to Elden Ring, and then I still haven't played it yet because I'm still waiting for some of the PC updates that they haven't done yet. And I had the same problem with I really want to play Horizon Forbidden West. I don't have a PS5. It's not on PC.
Yeah.
I can give you mine.
You have a PS4?
Yeah, I mean, I do have my PS4 upstairs.
I don't have a PC, but I have a PS5.
So I could play that. I'm looking forward to that game as well. I could play it upstairs, but I'm like, I have this, really expensive gaming PC that runs games really well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'll just wait.
Right?
And I kind of do that with story games anyway. I wait either like till they go on sale or till they've been out for a while because I'm like I can, they're not going to change, like the story of the game's not going to change. So I always just kind of wait for story games.
Right. Interesting. Oh, that's a question for you, Nathan. What or who is your favorite band artist to see live?
Oh boy. So I like going to lots of concerts. So the answer to that would be there's probably like 40 bands that fit into like that were amazing shows. Oh man. I mean, I don't know. I just went to a concert last week. I went to Tiger's Jaw and Me Without You on Monday, which was a great show. They all played really well. I think probably the most probably the show that or a band that I've seen a couple times that I would say it's yes, it sounds cliche, but it's a very much of an experience band when you're there and they're live. Is a band called Caspian, and they play a little bit different when they're live than what you're used to from the albums and whatnot, and they are just absolutely phenomenal live.
Interesting. What about you, Gally?
I don't really go to like concerts. The last event I went to was Monster Jam with my kids, which was actually pretty cool. But we did get rained on, so that kind of sucked. But it was still pretty cool because it was at Lincoln Financial Field, which was like a NFL football stadium. And it was the first time like my kids had ever been to something like that. I will never go by myself without my wife again. But because there was just a sea of people. I have a now 5-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Oh God! And you're losing them all the time.
yeah.
You need to hold them together with something like your.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, they
like
did really good. Like while we were there, like following, like just being in a big crowd like that. But I never thought of this before being a parent. Because usually, like typically, I've been to like football games and stuff before. There's like large crowds of people in a stadium like that, but never with my children. So like when I got there, I was like, man, I've never actually thought about like, okay, I have to keep them close to me. Like there's going to be a lot of people here. I don't want anybody to take them because like that's a thing. You don't like think about that when like before you're a parent, so
no, I mean, why should you?
it's just like a crazy kind of flip of perspective. Like while I was there, I was kind of in like this mode, like almost a protection mode, like, but not in a protection mode at the same time. So, but as far as concerts, man, I can't remember the last concert I went to, like actual music. It's probably a country, maybe like Toby Keith when I was like 13. Yeah, man.
I can't even remember when I was.
I don't go to a lot of concerts.
Honestly, I can't even remember when I was. And right now, I must say, like, I was in a party. I don't know when was it, like before Christmas or something. And that was like my first party I was on was more than 10 people in one room, for 2 years. Since COVID hit, and I was so overwhelmed with everyone talking around me, like it was too much for me. And I was like, what the fuck is going on? I mean, I'm here. It's a party, let's go. And it was too much. And I thought like now going to a concert, like I would love to go to a concert again. But I really feel like this whole pandemic thing kind of, I don't know. It's weird.
It's a sensory deprivation in a way. Like for me personally, it certainly is. I work from home. So
yeah,
me
too.
So, going into the first concert I went to as things started opening up was back in February, and that was real.
Did you have
different.
the same thing? It was weird for me. It was like
It was well, and we still had masks in Seattle, but we were allowed to get together. So you had tons of people in a room together that were all masked up. But it was still kind of like you said, like there's tons of people talking, especially when the band's not on, and
you speak even louder than when you have the mask on.
Yeah.
Because you can't hear.
It was a lot for sure. So it is different. But oh man, I don't know if I could go without concerts. This was a rough 2 years of not being able to go to shows. I usually go to like a low years 2 to 3 shows in a year. I usually try to go to 6, 7, or 8.
Dang, that's a
I was wondering also before I was preparing for this podcast. Do you stay in touch still with your units, like on regular basis, or with some of the dudes? Are you still?
Actually, the one of my he's still in. He's not. I don't think he's in the unit that we started out. Like kind of how it works in the guard to get promoted. Like you have to move around to different units because it's
Mhm.
like a slot system. So your unit might not have a slot for the rank that you want to be promoted to, so you kind of have to like move around. So he's moved around. He's actually working with Red. He's a full-time AGR. It's like active duty, but you're still working for the National Guard.
Yeah.
But you're doing your military job. But he actually streams on Twitch, and he comes into my stream sometimes, and I go into his stream sometimes. So I've reconnected with him a little bit, but not really. I don't. There's really nobody else that I've really kept in touch with. I think it's just because too a lot of them had to when I got out, either they got out when I got out, or they had to move around to different units, so they're not even in the unit that I used to be in.
Mm-hmm.
So my experience is, so I'm still in. So my experience is, of course, a little different. But like from my most recent deployment, I mentioned earlier, we had random people from all over the country, and there's a few of us that are still in the same text message group. And I got back in
Nice.
2019, and we're still like constantly texting, even though like one's in Montana. I'm here in Seattle area, right? One's in Montana, one's in Minnesota, and one's in Georgia. But we're still constantly in communication. So it varies. There's people that I still know from like basic training, and there's people that I know from more recent that I keep up with. But
Yeah.
of the thousands of people you interact with over a career, like there's
Yeah.
the vast majority. I have no idea what country they're even in right now.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Through the 6 years that I did, I mean, oh man, I met so many different people, whether it was basic or AIT. And then I actually had to go back to where I did AIT to do the same course I did in AIT, which was weird. So I met a bunch of people from the Guard during that 2 weeks. Then just being in my unit, then from deployment, because we had people that were attached to my unit during the deployment. And then once the deployment was over, they went back to their, own drilling station or whatever. Yeah, it's actually crazy to think about how many people come across in my service.
It's thousands.
Yeah. And then just even too, when we got, the weird thing was when we got back from deployment too, is we had a bunch of people that joined while we were there. So we got back to our unit and there's all these like new privates and we're like all staring at each other on the drill floor like, who are you? And they're like, well, who are you? We've been here for 8 months drilling with, they're like readiness NCO and stuff stayed behind. And we're like, you're not a part of you new kids. You're not a part of the unit yet. So
it definitely varies. I mean, you just interact with so many people. It's like I had a leadership school I was in last year. And these are people that I only met and then was in a class with for 4 weeks. And then that's it. We all go back to our home units and states and whatever. And there's a couple that I still keep in contact with. But like while you're there, you're working together, you're constantly doing something, depending on what class you're in or what you're doing. You get people that you suddenly like really connect with, and then the class is over and that's it. You're back to different states and different units and different functions.
You might not ever see them again. Yeah.
You're likely to never see them again.
Yep.
If you think back, is there anything you would tell your younger self before you went into being a soldier? How did you think about that?
I probably would have told myself then, yes, you're going to go ahead and do the 20 years. So just plan for that. Don't keep telling yourself, this is my last one. You're just going to keep re-enlisting. So just give into that and go to the schools.
Just do it early. I actually have the opposite of that statement because I was losing money for my civilian job to go to drill. I was losing I probably lost like $8,000 in 1 year for my job that I didn't make because my job was like, oh, we're not paying you because you're getting paid from the military. But the pay I was getting to go to drill wasn't, the difference was not matching up. So when they came around, I was like, hey, you want to re-enlist? I was like, No, because I'm losing money, so I'm done. And what's funny, Nathan says, when I got in, I was like, yeah, I'm doing 20 years. I'm gonna retire from the Guard. My dad was in the Air Force. A bunch of my family members have served as well. My dad did 33 years. He retired from the Air Force Reserves. So I was like, yeah, I'm gonna be just like my dad, except in the Army, and I'm gonna retire. And then that 6th year came around, and the 2nd year that I was with the railroad after my deployment, and I was like, no, I'm just done. Plus, I think it was hard too, is because I moved to South Jersey and I drilled in Pennsylvania, and I had to drive an hour and a half to my drilling station every time I had to go.
Yep.
So that 100 and some miles every weekend, once a month, and then having to drive all the way back home and then getting up for work on the next month. Like, you didn't get that week off that month
Yeah.
because I would go
Yep.
from work on Thursday and then have to be at drill on Friday at whatever time, crazy time, probably like 0700, to stand around and all stare at each other for an hour. And then and then do my military job, and then not be released till 1900, and then have to drive home and not get home till 10 o'clock at night, and then go to bed and wake up, go to work, and do so
Yeah, that's a lot.
I had a soldier that worked for me.
definitely definitely. I was just gonna say, it definitely weighed on like my mental health, and I was so relieved, which I never thought I would be, but I was very relieved when I was done, because I was like, what, I did my time. I'm moving on. I have a great civilian job, and I do miss like the camaraderie and stuff. I just don't miss the the hurry up and wait, and some of the other things that go into it. I'm sure Nathan can tell you.
No, I had a soldier that was in a similar situation to you that worked for me, and like he's coming up on his ETS, and I'd been in long enough by that point where I would try to talk to people like, I'm on my path to retirement. Here's the benefits of it. This is why I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It could work for you. And then he's like, well, I drive up from Salem. I have to lose a day of work. I have kids, and like was becoming a single parent at that time, and it was just like, well, it's been good working with you. Like, I'm not even gonna even start telling you anything about why you should stay in. Like, no, yes, I 100% understand. Like, it can be really difficult, and he was doing the exact same thing as you. He's driving multiple hours to get to the drill weekend, so it screws with your work week, screws with your sleep schedule. You're away from your family. Like, no, it can be nasty for sure.
And I didn't even have. Did I have? I think my son was. I was only in like the last year of my contract. My son had just been. Oh yeah, like now I vividly remember. The Pope came to Philadelphia, so my unit got activated for that, and my son was born a week before. And I think I called my unit. And I'm like, do I still have to show up for this state active duty? They're like, yeah. And I'm like, but my son was just born. They're like, yeah, we don't care. You used to show up. I'm like, okay. So my poor wife, I had to leave my wife. My son was actually in the NICU the first week of his life. So the weekend we had, it was like a long weekend. It was like a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The Pope came. So we had those 4 days we were on active duty orders technically. And I had to go, and my son and luckily my family helped my wife, go pick my son up from the hospital because he was coming home that weekend. And that was like the worst feeling ever, like that I just couldn't be there for that. And I was not that far away. I was in Philly. So, and it was annoying because I had to drive all the way to Fort Town Gap, which is an hour and 45 minutes. And then we drove 45 minutes back towards where I live. So I was like, yeah, this is great. But even when I spoke to my dad about it, 33 years in the Air Force, my dad's like, just get out. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah, it's just not benefiting you anymore. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe my dad just said that. Like, he just retired from the Air Force. So I'm like, wow, I can't believe my dad is like telling me to just get out, so
it's interesting. It's the complete opposite of stories and out of complete opposite of expectations. It's
I mean, I don't knock anybody that stays in to retire. You know, I was gonna do
Yeah.
that too. It's just
In the end, I think
yeah,
the thing is you have to find your own way,
yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it just changed so quickly. You know, like
Mhm.
when I came in from my deployment, that was like the last 2 years of my contract. And like I was like, I'm gonna reenlist and do another 6 years and whatever. And then it just got closer, and I was all this stuff and traveling, and I was like, it's just not worth it anymore. So I just got out, and I do miss it, but I'm better. I mean, not better off now, but
I
it
was
was the right
laughing, yeah.
decision.
Like with the first birth of my kid, I was 10 days alone after and 10 days before the birth. So I'm so used to that, to be alone and like the father is gone. But I
Mhm.
totally get what you mean. And for me, it was like before my daughter was even born, it was clear for me that I will be alone a lot. So I knew it.
Yeah,
So for me, it was the mindset was already there. Like, I got this. I have to get this, like,
yeah,
but still, on the other hand, there's this other perspective of, as a man who feels like I'm responsible and I want to be there and I can't.
yeah, exactly. And it
That's
was
very
funny.
interesting.
It was funny, not funny, but like me and my wife, we got engaged like right when I got deployed, like when I left to go in country. So we spent that whole time together. We were in a relationship together. So it's not like she wasn't used to me having to go to drill or go to whatever or do. I have army stuff. I can't not say no. That's a thing. You have to go. So she was used to that, but I think because of my son being born, it was just different that time, and it was just that one last like she knew that I couldn't be there, and it wasn't my fault, but it still felt like my fault. You know what I mean? At the same time. So, um, yeah, I was that just popped up into my head. So,
It's funny. It sounds like what you're describing. You went from I'm going to be in to I'm getting out in a relative like pretty short time period.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah,
Mine was also just that, but with the opposite result.
Right?
yeah,
So I had just had surgery, and I mean you'll understand this. I was on a profile post surgery, and
yeah,
I was coming up on ETS, and they actually called me, the retention called, and they're like, "Hey, your ETS is in a couple of weeks." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but I'm on a profile. I can't do anything. I want to reenlist." And they went, "Cool. Here's the problem. You haven't failed a PT test yet." And I'm like, "I'm sorry, what?" And he goes, "Yeah, you haven't passed one and you haven't failed one. You don't have one in this time period because I had spine surgery, so I couldn't do anything."
right.
Right. And he's like, "So could you come in this weekend and just take a test? Doesn't matter if you pass or fail. You just have to have a test on record or we
Yeah,
can't
that the
re-enlist you."
one per
Hmm.
year or
And I
whatever
was
it is.
like, are you kidding me? Like the result doesn't matter. I kind of want you, like, can you just sign something that says I failed so we can do this? Like I don't care. But I like that like 3 or 4 day period of like trying to get all my ETS stuff in and re-enlist like with that really short window. When I went to go do the contract, they were like, "All right, so how many years do you want?" And I was like, "I never want to get this close and get into a weird situation like that again. Let's just make it permanent." And I went in def. Like it was just like, yeah, let's just do it. So
That's interesting.
Yeah,
similar like short time period,
Hmm.
opposite result.
Just don't want to go through that again. Very
Oh, it was annoying.
interesting. We completely left the fun questions here, and I went straight into the. But I have another question. I'm sorry.
go
I
ahead.
just thought about it. Also with your experience now looking back, if you could give like any other veteran advice who is dealing with mental health issues, like what would you give them? What advice would you give them? I think this is out of your perspective a great question. Actually, I would like to know that. Maybe you can start, Nathan, maybe,
Um,
or Gary.
Yeah, go
I
ahead,
would just say, I don't know. I guess even for somebody that like is thinking about going into that lifestyle, like the military lifestyle, um, just like be ready for anything. Kind of like Nathan was saying. I signed up for a non-combat MOS, so when I got in or went to my job school and everything, I'm like, oh yeah, basically like being a supply specialist, I could have went to any kind of unit. I could have went to a aviation unit. I could have went to a a unit of medics, just anything. I could be attached to any kind of unit because they all have a supply room. They all have that job. But I got attached to a combat arms unit. So it was just kind of like ironic when I got to my unit. I was like, I picked a non-combat MOS and I ended up in a combat unit anyway. So, you know, just I guess just be ready for change at any moment in time. Like you have to always kind of just be ready for change and adapt to that, whatever the situation may be. And it'll either you know, make you stronger in the long run, or you'll look back at that on that time frame and you'll be like, you know, I should have done this different, or maybe I should have just tried harder or put more effort into whatever, you know, maybe it's PT, maybe it's like, because I really struggled with PT while I was in. And I remember when I got deployed, when I was deployed, I really focused on that because I really wanted to, you know, get in, you know, be in better shape for myself, not just because I wanted to pass PT tests or whatever. But I really wanted to, you know, so I worked on that while I was on deployment. But yeah, it's just, you have to be ready to overcome. I don't know if there'd be really anything I would change. I don't know. Because my job's kind of different. Like a lot of the times when the soldiers would go do training, I was in the supply room doing other things, or I would go out to training with them because they might have failures on the weapons or such stuff like that. I'd have to go, and I'd actually, you know, I'd have to go qualify with my like all that, like basic soldiering stuff. I'd have to do that too, and then on top of my supply room job too. So, you know, my weekends, I was always kind of like envious of some of the like other soldiers that were like the same rank of that me, because yeah, they got to like stand around and that's boring, but like I didn't get to do that because I had to do other things. You know, I was like always on the move, and especially on deployment too, because we moved like, I don't know, like $2 million worth of property overseas from PA. Like, so yeah, I think my experience is what I'm trying to say is it was a lot different because of my job in my unit. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. What about you, Nathan?
I
Well,
guess
would you suggest someone who's dealing with mental health issues? Sorry.
Yeah, so I would say it's both that and a more like military wide thing is when you're first getting in and you're deciding to get in and you pick something and you want to go for it. Once you're past that initial hump of like getting in, basic training, whatever, you get to unit, anything that comes up that sounds interesting, just go do it.
Yeah.
Just go do it. Like there's a couple of times where I had an opportunity for a class and for one reason or another I didn't take it, and probably just should have. Like there's some opportunities you only get once, and some of those things you get one opportunity at it, and that may be the only time in your life that comes up, because either you get out or the school doesn't become available again, or like in my case, I got injured, so that took certain things that I would have been able to do out. There's certain things I can no longer like just go do because I have a spine injury. So like that just go do that when you're young and repair more easily, and go get hurt if that's what it takes. You know what happens when you go through some particular school. Just go do it when you're young, and it's easier to recover and get back to what you want to do. As far as the more mental health aspect, it's actually kind of the same advice, just with a different context of like, if you feel like you need help, just go get it. Like, it doesn't matter if somebody else in your unit has some thoughts about it. It doesn't matter if you think that your leadership is going to have some thoughts about it, because at the end of the day, they don't matter. The only person that's going to the person that's going to care the most about your health at all is always going to be you. And that applies even more with your mental health, because you can be really struggling and on the outside somebody can't see it. Yeah, if you have a broken arm, yeah, okay, it's kind of easy for other people to look at that and go, oh, did you know that your arm is like, you know, crooked there? And somebody outside looking in, it's easier for them to point out that, hey, you should go see the medic. Yeah, put that arm back in place.
Yeah,
what's going on in your head? You can't see that, you know. So
How far
It-
are we with
it's
breaking
like
the stigma about mental health, though? Well, how do you see it now?
we're
Is it
terrible.
like
We're terrible at it.
it's still terrible?
I mean, it's getting better, but
I was gonna say
it's
that's probably a better question for Nate. Like, yeah, is it getting better? Because I've been out since 2016, so I don't know. Like, for people that are still in, like, are they? There's, the Army likes its PowerPoint programs and its programs, but
yeah.
what does that really
Yeah,
do at the end of the day?
Uh,
So Nathan knows exactly what I'm talking about without even naming one of them, which I'm sure the name
yeah.
probably changed.
I could probably
Right.
rant for an hour about death by PowerPoint and what little good it does. But
Yeah.
I mean, I think in a way it is improving. There's more support and there's more mandates and things from the very top saying that you will not damage people's careers for seeking help when they need it. And that probably helps some. I mean, I think generationally too, the younger generation of the people that are joining now, just there is a culture shift to where it's more acceptable to just have a therapist and get that help, which I think is good. But the military still has a ways to go for it for sure, because you have the stigmas, and like I was saying earlier, like you'll have people that will look at you, look at your unit patch, know your job, and go, "What's so bad for you?" And you're sitting there like, "No, I'm suffering, and you don't understand it." And they're like, "Yeah, but you're just a supply guy. What did you see?"
Yeah,
You didn't do
exactly. That's
nothing."
actually
But
the first time that me and Deity spoke. I had mentioned something like, "Oh yeah, because a lot of the times people are like, yeah, I was deployed in Kuwait," and they're like, "Oh, Kuwait, oh, that must have been a really hard deployment," which it wasn't. It was pretty laid back, but I said that to Deity, and he was like, "Well, there's nothing you can change about that. That's just something that." Like in the Army, you get told what to do. You don't get a choice in where you go or where you're deployed or what experiences you have, whether you're in combat or not in combat. You don't get that. You literally do not get to choose. You are told,
nope.
your unit is going here to do this, and this is your job. And we were actually supposed to go to Iraq. It's just that all the forces got moved out of Iraq, and then we got told to do security in Kuwait. So that's why I mentioned earlier our deployment kept getting pushed back, and that was the whole reason. But I feel like that too. Like I still resonate with what Nathan just said with that statement. Like, whoa, you're just the supply guy. What could you be going through? But what they don't realize is the supply guys back in the arms room trying, running around with a chicken with his head cut off like a chicken. And you have the unit commander coming down being like, "Oh, you better make sure all my sensitive property is here, or we're gonna get fined." And you're like, "Oh, okay, cool, thanks, sir." So
Well,
I
the experiences can be
Maybe the
like
thing is that we, as humans, more or less, almost all of us have a story, right? And we all have shit we are going through. And I mean, this comes down to, you said it's just a supply guy, but in the end, we all have our issues. And for some people, they are just,
well, and
they're
the
different.
thing with the military too is though, like as Gally was saying before, like he went into supply and then got put in a combat unit. Like everyone's path is not defined just by their MOS. Their unit changes it, the mission changes it. Like for me, like I said earlier, like I'm an IT specialist. I'm supposed to be typing on a keyboard and making sure the network works, and that's kind of the job. It's not very exciting, and I usually sit in the air conditioning, right? But then I try to explain to somebody, no, I was flying in Blackhawks back and forth across Afghanistan, and I was like, I've been in a Blackhawk while the freaking machine guns are doing their thing, and you're sitting there unable to do anything. You're looking out the window going, "Hey, what's up out there?" It's not typical for my job because that happened to be the unit and mission that I had. Lucky for me in a way. Like I'm sitting in that chair and the machine guns start going, and I was like, "Wow, well, this is interesting." And then I look outside and I'm like, "Are you shooting the ground?"
What?
There's nothing there. You're just shooting dirt. And they're like, "Well, yeah, actually, we do this on purpose." And they kind of explained it. And I was like, "Oh, okay." Whew. Was not ready for that. All right. But like you get completely different experiences, even just in that same job. So it's not just is Gally a supply guy, but did he end up in a combat unit? Did he end up with combat medics? Was he sitting there ordering medical supplies as people were dying in another room? Or did he work a supply job in Doha and take 4-day weekends at the bar? Like you can have the exact same job
I
code.
wish there was a bar in Kuwait. I did have it pretty made in Kuwait though, because we had. So I actually worked in my unit was QRF for our base. So I was on Camp Arif, John. I mean, probably know where that is.
There. I know jail.
Yeah, so we were the QRF unit there. We were also ARF, which I didn't ever go out on that. But I actually worked in the talk. So I was the guy on the, every time QRF would go do a patrol, they would call us on the radio, and we'd have to write down what time and the checkpoints and all that. But we had 4 guys. So we worked, like I had one day I worked in the talk, and then the next day I had off. Like every other day I had off. So I had it kind of pretty made, because when we first got there, they were like, oh, just go to the arms room. I had like a portable arms room near our like office. They're like, just go to the arms room. And like I was like, so I'm sitting in my arms room, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Because like all the equipment's signed out. So it's not like back home where like they would bring it back all the time. Like they needed to have it for their patrols and stuff. So I'm like, what am I supposed to do? It's all signed out. Like, what am I just supposed to? So I literally just sat in the arms room for like a month. And then I told my supply sergeant, I'm like, can you please give me a job, like something? I'm going to go crazy on this deployment if I don't have anything to do, because I already did my job. They talk to higher ups, and they're like, okay, you're gonna start working the talk. I'm like, thank you. And then actually a couple months too, I asked to go work with one of the platoons and not work in the talk for 2 weeks, because I was like, please, I need to get out of here. And luckily I had good leadership, so they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I actually got to like do soldiering stuff while I was deployed too for 2 weeks, and then I went back to my other job. So but yeah,
that's interesting.
I'm very familiar with the need for something to do on my on my last deployment. Despite
and there was still downtime.
100%. On my last one, despite my very technical background, they put me in an operations role, and I wrote op orders. For a year.
Those are boring. Those are boring.
Especially when your leadership believes in a set office schedule. So when you're done writing your orders by like 1300 and you're like, I am done and I have nothing left to do for the day, they're like, cool, keep that chair warm. And it's like,
yeah,
what do you want me to do for the next 4 hours? And they're like, well, YouTube's blocked, Facebook's blocked, and you can't listen to music. So we don't care, but you're going to keep that chair warm. It's like,
perfect.
Actually, I was earlier when we were talking about gaming. I actually have like the best gaming memories on my deployment, because we had so much downtime that we didn't play online because the Wi-Fi they had in there sucked. So you couldn't really play online. But Black Ops 2 Call of Duty had like just came out like when we got deployed. So we played zombies offline like it was no tomorrow. And it was hilarious because we would get people that didn't really game. Like we'd get these like 40-year-old E6s playing freaking FPS game for the first time, shooting zombies, and they would get addicted. They would like.
I heard that so many times. You can't believe that. Like everyone I know who was like over there deployed is playing that. Playing that.
And then they would come over to our bunks and be like, "Hey, you want to play some zombies? You want to?"
Yeah, right.
Like
the game to go.
Really sorry. Are you like you? It was just funny. Like you see people that you wouldn't think would get into stuff like that, and probably maybe went home and never touched a video game ever again. But I just still remember those times because it was really fun, actually.
Yep. We had the
great time.
My unit in Afghanistan had a semi-regularly scheduled LAN event, and you're sitting there in a room playing CS 1.6 with like a dozen other people, and you're looking around and you're like, I think I just shot a major in the face.
This is awesome. Yes.
Like it's wild the variance of people that show up when you start having an event like that. You've got your old major, you've got the private that's only been in for a year sitting in the other corner, and they're yelling at each other across the room like, Who's John?
great.
Who's using the username John? Where'd you shot me from? Like people like mad. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
But like
Yeah,
you put a rank out and just have a good time, and you're able to connect with people for just playing a video game together.
Yeah, it was great.
That's very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, I think we are about to catch up actually this podcast, but we have so many great events coming up. Can we talk about what you guys are bringing on the table this week? I don't know actually right now exactly, Nathan, when are you planning your single stream now? I don't know what was the last info, but maybe you just tell us what is your plan this week?
So Sundays are always single player Sunday for my channel, and we're going to be wrapping up, I believe, the last of the Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga.
Right.
Game needs a longer name. I think we'll be finishing that tonight. And then tomorrow, Mondays, I do multiplayer games, and I think we're going to be doing Path of Exile because the new League for Path of Exile launched last week.
When is your stream starting today again? What time?
8
because
p.m.
you're streaming after.
Pacific or 11 p.m. Eastern.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
11 p.m. Yeah. Okay, cool.
And you, Gally, what are you bringing this week? I don't know if are you streaming this week? I don't even know if you're streaming this week.
I streamed last night. I'll be streaming later tonight. I usually start at 9 p.m., but I'm going to push it back a little bit, probably till 10, just because I've been down here for 2 hours. So I spend some time with my wife and then my kid. Well, my kids will be asleep, but spend some time with my wife. But yeah, I'll be back on Battlefield 2042. Even I know it's not everybody's cup of tea in the BF community, but I'll be back on the Battlefield tonight. And then next week I'll be streaming.
I miss playing that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, anybody can always join my squad. And then next week I'll be on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's my schedule. And I'll probably just be playing Battlefield and Rainbow Six Siege. So
I definitely have to join you at some point on Rainbow Six Siege. I haven't played that game for so long. And we're looking forward to see your streams, guys. Maybe Pan, can you pull up the schedule, Craig? Because we have a couple of other streams going on this week, and I would like to talk about that for a second. But I need my cheat sheet. Your cheat sheet. My cheat sheet. So
can they see that?
No.
Just yeah.
I know, full screen.
I can't. Yeah. I think I can't talk. Can I? He's trying to make. Okay, wait.
I'm trying my best here. I can't get it. I can't get it to show up without muting everybody.
That's fine. I will just open it. Wait, I can hear myself now.
It's okay. Just watch the camera roulette.
Yeah. They'll see the whole thing eventually.
I can't see you guys now. Wait.
Yeah.
Wait a second. There you go. I just need to find it on my own iMac here. Damn it. Wait.
I need to build you a PC.
Yes, do that. Build me a PC. So, of course, I'm not prepared. I don't know where I put it. I have it. All right. So let me read it for you guys. That's fine. We will also do a post later on Twitter. Make sure, by the way, make sure to follow here everyone on Twitter, on socials, guys. Here, of course, we put the link in earlier here, right? Gallatron's link is in here. Nathan's link is in here. Follow Gamerswecare on Twitter, of course. You see there also the schedule coming up latest tomorrow. So we will have tomorrow Winnie the Pooh actually streaming. She's starting at 5 p.m. EST. Then we have a painting stream with the wonderful Avi. She's streaming Tuesday at 2 p.m. EST. Wednesday, it's potato chips night. And then, Nathan, we have you in here for Friday. No, you're not streaming Friday. We actually have the wrong date in here. I just think that we couldn't see it. Oh, we can't see it. You need to mute me. Or something. I don't know. Why can't I hear myself?
Why is it double?
Yeah. It's the wrong date anyways. Take it out. Just see Nathan's date as well.
Yeah, normally it's my day on Fridays, but I have an event already that I'm going to be at, so I won't be streaming like my usual schedule on Friday.
It's fine. I will. So I know now actually what to switch. So yeah, we have the big event actually at Saturday, and
Saturday.
Nathan is joining us for that as well. So you will be streaming next week on Saturday and Sunday, I think, right? I believe, and if you even have the energy on Monday again, I guess.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure you will have the energy after Saturday actually to stream Sunday. I was
We'll see
kind
how
of
this goes, I guess.
yeah, I was kind of worried yesterday when he said like, yeah, I'm streaming on Sunday. I was like, should I warn him? You will be very tired on Sunday.
I'll
Yeah, but it's
sleep
only
see.
eventually.
5 o'clock here. Well, it's even earlier for him if he's West Coast.
No, but
Mhm.
next
Oh,
weekend,
next week, yeah.
we have a lot on our plate, right? And the big event on Saturday, and we will bring, of course, all the challenges, all the incentives, all the fun stuff back to the Gamerswecare channel. I don't know, guys, if you have ever seen us doing a big charity event, but this is definitely different, and we will have a lot of laugh with you guys. So stay tuned. This is just how it started today, guys, and it will get better. I promise you. um, so yeah, I don't know if you guys have any I don't know final words also in point of stack up or in general anything I missed maybe tonight you wanted to talk about, um, Nathan or Gally. I don't know. I feel like we touched base with almost everything here.
I
Yeah.
mean, yep, go ahead.
I know. Go ahead.
I was gonna say I guess the only other thing I would note, so I'm raising for a different charity this month, for May, but for next month for June, it's going to be Stack Up all month. So, I'm doing Stack Up tonight since we're kicking it off for GWC anyway. So my stream tonight will be Stack Up, but then I'll go back to my other charity for the rest of the month, and then it'll be Stack Up all of June.
I guess plus another good organization or Discord that has a lot of veterans is Regiment. Nathan's
Yes,
also a part of
indeed.
Regiment as well. I am too. I don't talk a lot in the Discord because there's a lot of people in there. I mean, when I
Yeah,
say
it's
a
like
lot, there's a
12,000
lot
then?
of people in there.
They
But
have like 10,000
Um,
people or something, right? I
yeah,
think they have
so
like
if you
yeah.
guys
think
are
it's almost
watching
12.
and yeah, there's a lot in there. But if you guys are watching and you are also a veteran or active duty service member and you don't have anybody to game with or looking to get into it, Regiment has a great Discord. There's so many people always in there in voice channels playing together,
Yep.
all sorts of different games.
And there's events all the time
So
too.
yeah, they
So they've
do
been hosting
they do
tournaments
different
and
like they always do like
Mhm.
Warzone tournaments and
Mhm.
Apex, probably even
And Carth.
Fortnite now and stuff like that. So
Yep.
it's another
Yes,
great veterans organization, and they also actually work with Stackup too. Recently, they've
Oh,
kind of
Halo. Yeah,
both
that's right.
linked up together. So
Yep.
regiments also raised money through USO as
Mhm.
well. So, yep.
indeed,
Yeah.
indeed. Yes, I think look, I have the feeling like we are living in times right now where we recreate, where we are filling the gaps with stuff that is not filled yet, and I love to see that, like organizations like Regiment and Stack Up
Mhm.
and all this stuff. Stuff is happening right now, and stuff is changing, and I love that. All right. Again, guys, thank you so much. Everyone who donated here, everyone who jumped into the stream here, who stayed here, wanted to know more about these wonderful guys here and what we are about to do with Stack Up this year. Also, if you're a content creator, you want to get involved, and we open up our stream team. You can always talk to us if you want to get involved more. Just send us a DM or join our Discord here. You know, there's always room for more, and would like to help more and do more events, actually do more gaming events that bring people together. And I think there will be a lot of great stuff coming up this year. So thank you really, everyone. Did I forget something? Let me look again one more time.
I don't think so.
We talked about AV stream, we talked about a Winnie stream tomorrow, Nathan, we talked about your streams.
Mhm.
Well, I must say my brain is not working anymore. um, well, we didn't ask all the fun questions. Let's end with that. We have 3 small fun questions here we didn't
Let's do it.
actually ask. Favorite junk food? Go. Burger is mine.
Probably Reese's peanut butter cups.
Ooh, have a beer coming next month that's supposed to taste like that. That's gonna be good. Favorite junk food? I don't eat tons of candy and stuff. I probably
Junk food
I
came. Junk
and it
food is
counts.
for me also a burger. Is junk food not a
Yeah,
burger? It's
well, then
burger.
burgers would fall into that. Probably
Yeah.
lately, mochi. Like I've been just digging
Oh,
on the little ice cream mochis from like Trader Joe's or whatever. Oh,
me too. They are
I just get
wonderful.
a
I mean,
box of
not.
them
I
and
mean, different
they're
company here,
gone.
but we have these little ones frozen, and they are such a good quality. It's it's
Mhm.
amazing. I love them. Um, damn, I lost my thought. Who or what inspires you?
Sorry, I was typing back here.
Just say you, Missy. We go on.
I mean,
God.
I'll jump in. So the who or what? I mean, in an ongoing sense, it's probably a different list, but I'll just say again, like anybody else that does charity work or charity streaming, I think is something that I keep watching and paying attention to because I think it's just such a cool thing. Like the whole idea of it just inspires me that we can hang out and play video games and support each other and create these spaces where we can talk about mental health. We can talk about our experiences in life while shooting each other in the face in Call of Duty or something like that.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
And for me, we also raised money for charities. So we're raising money for a veterans charity this month. We'll do a veterans charity next month. I do kids charities throughout parts of the year too, and I get to play video games. And at the end of the day, some kid somewhere that is sick and some family that needs something gets something out of me hanging out on Twitch and playing video games, and that really keeps me going. Like if I have a bad day and I'm like, that go live button looks real big today. Doing it anyway. Let's go because we get to do something that contributes to something else, and I love that. And that's one of my favorite things right now, and that's part of how I ended up doing this year. Is it's just go and do the charity side of it.
That's awesome.
That's amazing. I love that. Last question. What is your go-to gym playlist? Are you going to the gym? That's the question.
What was that?
What about like go to while I'm streaming playlists? I don't know.
What is your favorite playlist?
If I was going to the gym, which I do every single day, that's a lie. I actually used to regularly use. There's like I have Spotify, and there's the playlist on there called I think Adrenaline Workout, and it's just like high pace, high tempo, like hard hitting rock stuff. And
Nice.
put the headphones in, and it like even fades in between the songs, so it just keeps going constantly, and that usually keeps me going.
Yeah.
I
have like there's a cyberpunk playlist actually, and that's similar, and I use that all the time for that. It has also this adrenaline like push for it. Yeah, I know what you mean. What about you, Kelly?
I have it's not a playlist, but it actually also answers that other question: who inspires me? There's a local radio station here. They're called WMMR 93.3, but they have an awesome morning show, and they always do a bunch of charity. They do like for Thanksgiving they do like a food donation thing, like a drive, and they always get like a bunch of things. And they're just like really positive, and it's like all like classic rock music and stuff, that kind of like station, or not all classic. It's like modern rock and classic mixed together, but it's just a really good station. But they have a really good show, and every time they're on, I'm like, man, I miss my calling in life. I should have been a radio DJ or a host, because like, not that I mean, streaming is like I just see similarities. You know what I mean? Kind of. Like you're trying to be entertaining and stuff like that. So yeah, I guess there would be I listen to them in my work van all the time. So, but yeah, I listen to like a bunch of different genres of music. I'm like weird.
So it's funny you said the radio thing. I made that transition in the opposite order. I did radio in college and was headed that direction, and then said screw this and joined the army, and then started streaming on Twitch.
Nice.
Radio's fun, but the process of getting into it on the civilian side and working up to where you're back in front of a microphone is actually really long and annoying.
Yeah.
And like anything else where you're trying to get to that peak.
Yeah.
Yeah, I quit that and sticking with Twitch.
What's funny now is like, people, I'm sure there's people out there even on Twitch that have like super successful morning show, like, you know what I mean, like the same kind of thing you do on the radio that they do online,
Absolutely.
and they work for themselves. So that's crazy too when I think about it. I don't know, I just like drive around my work truck and I'm like, man, that like some of the things they do are just, you know, just makes sense.